We're down in the Iberian Peninsula for the fourth round of the season in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge here at Navarra. It's just as unfamiliar territory as we were in last week when we had 35 minutes of absolute chaos over at Mosport. But as I said, this week we're at Navarra. Hopefully it's going to be another cracker of a race, but it also could be a little bit of an unknown for some of these drivers. Up here in the RaceSpot commentary box, it's myself, Darren Thacker, joined by Reese Gardner and Dustin Ollis, who's producing the broadcast for us this evening. But Reese, I have to say, Navarra isn't a track that I'm overly familiar with. I know, of course, it was acquired by MSV in the last couple of years, but we haven't seen too much racing around it in real life. Could this be another one of these somewhat unknown tracks for the drivers?
I think so. Navarra is a relatively new track to the iRacing service. It's been here for a season, but part of the free content, so I think a lot of people have had a good opportunity to get familiar with this place, but it will be very difficult to get familiar with Navarra. It's a tight track, it's got plenty of slow corners, some good overtaking opportunities, but very tight in the middle sector. Of course, it is round 4. We do apologize for the error in our calendar, but yes, we are indeed at Navarra for the LMP3-GT4 Challenge, and we go to a beautiful set of racetracks to close off the season after this point.
Yes, we do. I know. We're kind of in keeping, aren't we, with the Southern Europe feel now that we're not going to the Red Bull Ring. We're going to Spain, over to Italy, to the Tuscan Hills, beautiful Tuscan Hills for Mugello, and then we're back to the Iberian Peninsula, Barcelona again, and then we kind of go a little bit higgledy-piggledy, don't we? Road America, Hockenheim, then back to Virginia. I mean, this does look like a very good little calendar for the kind of racing that we saw last time out at Mosport, because that really was absolute chaos.
Yes, yeah, plenty of chaos indeed, but, you know, it was certainly entertaining, and I'm expecting more of the same here tonight, you know. This is a bit of a slower average speed track than Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but it's going to be fantastic regardless. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, a couple of fields of Portimao in there as well with that first sector, but again, a little bit of an unknown for the drivers. But in the LMP3 standings, after 3 rounds, we're kind of getting a better picture of where we sit with the standings. A third of the season is done, and Alec Bergstrom leads the way with a 15-point advantage. Not the most comfortable of leads, but with the tight point system that we have, it's a relatively comfortable one for the time being, unless something bad happens. Dayton Lowe's there to pounce if anything does happen to our championship leader, with Peter Huston not too far behind him. David Twino and Brian Vorch in the top 5. Christian Garaton and Nikos Sanidakis are 6th and 7th. Ryan O'Connor is on the same points as Sanidakis, with Lovkov 1 behind, and Ian Starker just a little bit further back on 112. In the team standings, though, it's Hydra Race, Geodesic Racing, and Roberto's Angels Team Teal. We're kind of fighting out the title. Tabula Rasa Esports and Delta Sport, they're 3rd and 4th, but a little bit further back. Maradnas M Squad, Solpec Precision Racing, Fiercely Forward, Sim Total Races, Roberto's Angels Team Red, and Grant's Garage, all a little bit further back, but still inside the top 10. But in the GT4 standings, we have a very, very nice championship battle brewing between Aidan Young on 155 points and Aaron Myers on 152. Those two a little bit clearer of the rest of the pack. Roy Brown back at 27 points back from second, with Adam Ostrich and Robert McGeehan trying to get into that top 3. Declan Derber and Will Jennings 6th and 7th. Jesse Mullins, Sam Mayorga and Travis Chapman in the top 10 for the GT4s. In the teams, not as many teams, but Solpec Precision Racing and Valhalla Motorsports Tavir are the 2 teams going for the title, unless Team Beef can do anything about it. Fiercely Forward and Big Fast Racing are on the same amount of points after 3 rounds with Valhalla. Soy Boys and Echelon Simsport GT4, the 8 teams in the teams standings. And it'll be interesting to see how these teams and these drivers try to adapt to the track that we have this evening. But before we do get any further into the racing action, we're going to have to, of course, thank our sponsors for this race. At Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual game up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Butt kicker. Butt kicker products and are incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with Butt kicker. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Murad. Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. It, of course, is a great addition to any sim room. And, of course, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all their socials to become a better driver. And I know that their socials are pretty much anything you can think of, so make sure you're following Advanced Motorsports wherever you do get your social media. I'm talking advertising podcasts there. With everybody thanked, of course, we can get in towards qualifying and race. These times that we're going to be seeing, I don't know if they're going to be terribly close, of course. With the lack of practice some of the drivers may have at this track, we might see some bigger gaps than what we generally used to.
Yes, this is, I think, the first time I've commentated a race at Navarra. I have driven one hosted race in like a 10-car HPD field at this circuit, so I at least have some race experience around here. What I can tell you is there's some very subtle bumps around this place that will send you absolutely sliding, and the opening sweepers after the first hairpin are certainly going to be a place where we'll see drivers separated by who can be smooth and controlled and who cannot. On board with Aaron Myers, who is currently, I believe he was second in the championship standings graphic we showed earlier, doing quite well in the number 22. We're about to see his first qualifying lap, but oh, you see, that's one of the pitfalls of the circuit right there. The final corner. You've got to make sure that you slow down in time for that corner. It is a lot slower than you think it is.
Yeah, and we'll see what he can do with his time. And he goes up into second place behind Aiden Young, and that is not necessarily a bad place to be. But look at that gap, 0.6 of a second, splitting the top two. Make that 3.5 as Reed Gibson puts himself up into P2. With this being a closed session, so all of the drivers are in their own little lobby, it means that we're getting so many times in quite close together. Alec Bergstrom there going up into P4, the championship leader in the LMP3s. He, of course, has the highest iRating. Oh no, sorry, it doesn't. Dayton Lowe has the highest iRating, I should say. My point was going to be that Aiden Young's iRating, and I've only really just clocked onto this, is some 1,700 higher than anybody else in his GT4 class, and he is really showing that class with that gap at the front.
Yeah, Aiden Young has been the form man in the GT4 class in this series for quite a few seasons now. Dayton Lowe versus Alec Bergstrom, though, in the LMP3s is going to be one heck of a battle over the course of the season. Just saw that Vincent Leroux has gone fast enough to go to P3. Now it's Peter Huston, and Dayton Lowe will improve his time at the top of the field into the 1:35 bracket. His team is Aiden Young here, trying his best to get his way around the circuit in the last 3 minutes of the session. And I think, you know, the middle sector of the circuit in the GT4s is going to be a lot more difficult than the LMP3s find it. The LMP3s obviously a lot more precise through those tight corners. The GT4s are lumbering around this place, which makes Aiden Young's pace differential even more impressive.
Yeah, and let's see if he can improve on that time. I don't think he can. And no, just about half a tenth off of what he did for his previous fastest lap, and the 4.27 will stay with the 44.9 being his fastest time. Joshua Lewis, currently P6. See if he jumps anywhere up the order. He doesn't, but the likes of Sam Mayorga goes P2 in the 83 car. He's closed that gap to Aiden Young to just under 1.5. So there's definitely challenges in there to Aiden Young this evening. But I don't think Aaron Myers would be too pleased to see 2 cars between himself and his championship rival.
Yeah, indeed. Awesome stuff from Sam Mayorga to get himself up into second place there. Let's see what Lovkov can do on his final lap. At least we're predicting this is his final lap. Maybe one of his finals. You get 4 laps over the course of the 10 minutes here. And he has had 3 laps counted. So looks like this is going to be Lovkov's last opportunity to try and get a bit closer to Dayton Low. 4.5 tenths is the gap at the front of the LMP3 field. Lovkov, certainly one of the drivers who has suffered a bit of bad luck in the past. Let's see if this is enough for him. 135.6. That is going to be pole position for Oleg Lovkov. Very impressive.
What a time from the number 69 car, looking to put himself on pole position here at the circuit Navarra. And let's see if he can do it Dayton Low and Jake Browning. I'm sure we'll be hoping to improve if they've got any laps left. But, you know, that's a fantastic time from Oleg Lovkov, who's a little bit further back in the championship standings, 9th, I believe, coming into this race. So got a lot of work to do, and that's exactly what he needs to be doing, is be picking up those pole positions and putting himself exactly where he needs to be to try and pick up maximum points in this upcoming race. Reed Gibson is coming up towards the line. Can he make any improvement? I believe he can, with a 45.1, but it's not an improvement on his position, so he will stay in P3, just under 3 tenths off. Matthew Wykov has improved to P5, but I mean, he's P5, nearly a second off the time of Aiden Young, just showing how much pace that the 427 currently has.
Yeah, I think Aiden Young's going to be very tough to catch here at Navarra. Declan Derber, meanwhile, one of the other drivers in the GT4 category, is going to improve by 0.5 tenths of a second. Unfortunately, that's not going to be an improvement. He's currently slowest of the drivers that have set a qualifying time. Interesting amount of drivers that haven't set times here. We have 4 of our GT4s that haven't set times for the grid, and of course, Doug Sorrentino in the LMP3. I haven't seen him set a single qualifying lap all season. He keeps doing that last to first challenge. Well, we'll see how it works out for him as qualifying is over, and it's time to go through the grid.
Yeah, lots of drives, of course, here at PRL. Great to see some nice big grids wherever we go, week in, week out. But it's going to be led this time by Oleg Lovkov with a 35.6. He is leading the way ahead of Dayton Low, Jake Browning and Ryan O'Connor, who are on the front 2 rows. Vincent LaRue and Peter Huston, 5th and 6th. But you can see those time gaps open up pretty quickly. They're the only 6th within a second, with Alec Bergstrom, championship leader, down in 7th. Zach Hebert, Calvin Myant and Christian Garreton, the top 10. Doug Sorrentino, the 11th and final LMP3 car that we have on the grid. In the GT4s, it's Aiden Young and Sam Iorga who are on the front row of the grid. Reed Gibson is 3rd ahead of championship contender Aaron Myers. What can he do from 4th? Matthew Wykov and Darren Rutherford 5th and 6th. But again, look at those gaps opening up with Joshua Lewis, the 7th and final driver, within a second of the pole time. Adam Ostrich is 8th ahead of Jeff Kaufhold and Christopher Rosario. Kalen Tobin and Roy Brown on the 6th row of the grid. We look further back to Pascal Dufresne, Francis Castillo Romero, who nearly got that fantastic result at Mosport last time out, running out of fuel. He starts 14th. Declan Derber and Jean-Philippe Tremblay 15th and 16th, with Rog Ule and James O'Brien 17th and 18th. 2 more drivers on this 31-strong grid. Sean Mulholland in the 52 car and Will Jennings in the number 420 for Big Fast Racing. What can they do from the back of the field? We will wait and find out. But one thing I think it's fair to note, Reese, is that this is a slightly longer lap time. We're looking at over a minute and a half for the LMP3s, nearly a minute and 3/4 for those GT4s, if not more. We're not going to see as many times that the LMP3s are going to lap the GT4s this evening, so we might be a little bit down on that chaos tonight.
Yeah, he is hoping. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park last round, very high average speed track with plenty of fast corners. So the LMP3s came around on the GT4s very quickly indeed. In terms of the conditions, well, 78 Fahrenheit for those of you in metric land, that's 26 degrees Celsius. Same air and track temperature, and we're very early in the morning, 9:14 a.m. So in terms of that time difference, well, I think what we can expect is they'll get up to pace very quickly, but like you say, the LMP3s shouldn't be troubling the GT4s too much in the opening stages.
Yeah, and with the game set to the 13th of July, it means that the locals here watching the race can't remind me that, of course, Spain beat England in the Euros final, which is lovely to see. We're on to the formation lap, though. 31 cars here for this race this evening. Maybe a little bit of a condensed LMP3 field. Not as many cars as we've seen so far this season, but still, 11 can feel like a lot when you're getting through the traffic. I mean, this could still be quite an interesting one in terms of the strategy, in terms of the way that drivers work their way through the traffic, especially because they will be somewhat unfamiliar with the track, with the racing lines to take round here.
Yeah, and the racing lines are difficult to pick around Navarra. It looks like a simple enough track from the air, but especially through this section, you have the flat-out left-hand sweeper, or as near to flat-out as you can get, but you're immediately on the brakes for this winding sequence, and that curb on the right will absolutely destroy you if you run a bit too deep, and you've got to be careful of the bumps coming off that corner too. You've got to get on brakes for these very tight 90-degree corners, almost hairpins in the middle of the circuit. This is a treacherous circuit.
I mean, the first sector of the track, or the first half of the track at least, looks a bit like if you asked someone to draw Portimao from memory. Because it looks a little bit like it, but it isn't quite the same. We've got the similar opening sector with turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, despite it being a little bit more elongated, and then a left-hander following a right-hander. It does have that kind of Portimao feel, despite the fact that we've got absolutely no elevation to speak of whatsoever. So this is going to be an interesting one. We're getting onto the part of the racetrack as well now for the drivers that myself and Dustin Hollis were commenting on before we were getting ready. That looks a little bit like the bottom of a guitar in the final few corners. And this is we're actually where the pit lane comes off, because it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, Reece?
Yes, indeed. See, the pace car is demonstrating just that. That's where the pit lane entry is, before the second last corner. The drivers will need to be very careful of that when they come in for their mandatory pit stop sometime in the middle of the race. But LMP3 field rounding the final corner. We're going to have a race on.
Yeah, Oleg Lovkov's going to take us to green. Very early start. He's going to leave everybody for dead down towards the opening corner. That's as if he can fend them off with the slipstream that they're going to have behind. Green flag running here for the fourth round of the season, with Dayton Lowe looking in behind. There's chaos in the GT4 category, I think it's fair to say. There's drivers dropping down the order as they plough their way through turn 1 and 2 in the LMP3s. But a couple of drivers already out, and there's a spin at turn 3 in the LMP3 class.
And it's Bergstrom, the championship leader. A chaotic start in both of our categories. Sam Mayorga made contact with Aiden Young coming up to the line, and he stopped on the racetrack. He has gone back to the pits. I think Mayorga might have had a hardware failure. I don't know what's happened to Bergstrom, but my goodness, what a start in both of our categories.
Yeah, crazy scenes, particularly in the GT4s. There's a driver running off very, very wide. There's a driver spinning as well in behind. You're small kicking off as they work their way through this opening section. Yeah, it is Rosario having the issues, getting himself back onto the racing line in the number 24 car, but dropping right to the back of the field, and he's going to have a lot of work to do. But my word, was there a dramatic start. And in all of this, in everything that's going on, there is Oleg Lovkov. Look at the lead. He's got 1.6 seconds at the front.
Yeah, it's a very good start for Oleg Lovkov. He's obviously come to Navarra prepared to fight, and he's doing very well at the moment. But, man, the first lap is proving chaotic, to say the least, of seeing Jeff Kaufhold losing positions in the GT4 class. I'm not sure what the Valhalla Motorsports Porsche has come across there, but back behind Rosario, who was one of our spinners on the first lap. Man, this part of Navarra, it drives like a street circuit. You've got to be so careful through the corners, and evidently cold tyres proving more than the measure of a lot of the drivers in this field, as Dayton Lowe will go for it on Jake Browning for second spot in LMP3.
Oh, but the up and under is going to work out here, I think, for Jake Browning in the 73s. Will he have the outside line for turn 4 to work for him? He's leaving, enough room for 3 cars on the inside there, but he's making sure that he's not going to hit Dayton Lowe while they're fighting. He's still going around the outside along this long left-hander, which you commented earlier, Reece, about how you can take different lines through here, and the inside has worked out for Dayton Lowe. I am surprised about how much space Jake Browning gave Dayton Lowe there, because it was almost like he was scared off the road by the 708.
Yeah, well, I think Navarra. It's the grip is very hard to find through that section, so it doesn't surprise me that Browning gave Lowe plenty of room there, just feeling things out in the early stages of this race. You know, a 35-minute race length. We've still got 32 minutes on the clock. There's still a long way to go, so I think Browning's going to reset himself and try and get himself back up into second pretty soon. But well, they've all resumed in the top six the positions that they started in. In terms of positions gained, looks like Will Jennings is the biggest mover in the field, up 6 spots to 12th place in the GT4 class, and he's doing quite well at the moment. Reed Gibson, the battle for P5, he hasn't got much up to Josh Lewis, Wyckoff, and Aaron Myers, who's running in second, but man, there's still a lot to play for in these early stages. We're going to get some replays pretty soon of that action off the race start. First, what we're going to look at is Sam Mayorga. This is very interesting, Dara, because watch what happens when they come out of the final corner. It seems like there's just a hardware failure there for Mayorga. He bumps Aiden Young and then just slows down. The rest of the field have to find their way around him. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's awful for Mayorga, really. It doesn't seem like there was anything he could have done there. And it was just as the race was going to green. So awful news for Mayorga, especially with such a good starting position. But Aiden Young couldn't really believe his luck having that clean run down towards the opening corner. But I mean, the same can be said for Oleg Lovkov, because he had such a great launch, catching everybody really behind him napping. And it means that he has got a near 3-second advantage over Dayton Lowe for the time being. And it's just growing out. We're going to have a look as well at Alec Bergstrom here at turn 3. What happened to the championship leader? Oh, getting in a little bit too hot, I think. Losing the rear end, clipping a couple of cars, and then just trying to keep it going, all whilst drifting his way through the corner, but wasn't just able to keep it running in a straight line.
Yeah, turn 2 at Navarra, you're on the brakes through there, and the LMP3 is notorious for having a bit of an unstable rear end when you're trying to brake and turn at the same time. The downshifts as well are a big separator in this class. It's very easy to get a compression lock where you're trying to downshift and there's just not enough load on the rear tires and they lock up and you spin around. That happens plenty of times in these cars, but with the tires up to temperature and a little bit more rhythm in their step, I think most of the LMP3 drivers will have sorted that out. As for Bergstrom, down in 11th spot.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this battle pans out. Here's Jeff Kaufhold from the opening lap. Let's see what happens. 65. Oh, just getting a little bit too hot as they Constantine are up. No, he might have got bumped. I think he a little bit too deep. Yeah, going a little bit too deep and then not really counting for the concertina effect in front of him, giving a little bit of a love tap to the car in front, and somehow he's come off worse, I think. So physics doing its job perfectly well there. But we'll have to see how that one pans out for him in the rest of the race. Here's Declan Derber on the opening lap as well, bouncing his way over that curb and then getting a bit of a love tap as well. If anything, helping him get around the right way in the end.
Yes, bit of a drama there for Declan Derbo. He's now running last of the GT4s that are still on track. We had Sean Mulholland, Jean-Philippe Tremblay and Rog Welle not taking to the start, it seems. So 3 of our GT4s down before the green flag even flew. Sam Mayorga is currently our only retirement in the field after that horrendous run out of the final corner. But keep our eyes peeled on the battles back here. Vincent Leroux and Peter Huston, they're fighting over the top 5 spot here, and I think this straight is just, it's just long enough for a bit of slipstream, but it doesn't look particularly strong in the LMP3s.
Yeah, and then of course leading into turns 1 and 2, where it's flat out through 1 and then a little bit of a lift from 2, and then of course hard braking for 3. It's difficult to really find and craft that move, especially when that slipstream is being interrupted a couple of times before the heavy braking zone. So tricky for these guys to be able to make this move without any traffic, but you could just about see there the GT4s, they're getting close to the LMP3s, to that first lapping of this group, and we might be able to see some movement in the order when that does occur. But we're looking at Will Jennings here in that Mercedes-Benz, just all over the road trying to defend at the moment, and it seems that the likes of James O'Brien and Christopher Rosario have a little bit more pace at this stage.
Yeah, at the moment it seems that way. Jennings setting a 147.4 on that lap, 47.4 as well for O'Brien, but Rosario on the recovery in that beige Mercedes. He's run 4/10 faster, to say nothing of Jeff Kaufhold, who's gotten into the 146s on that last lap. So they're going to be a big element in this battle towards the end of the lap, particularly in the middle section, which is mighty technical indeed.
Yeah, we've seen how, I mean, there isn't a massive pace advantage for the LMP3s over the GT4s in slow speed corners, and when you get tight little sections like that, it could be tricky. The likes of Lovkov and Lowe, who were going first to make those moves work, especially for the guys further back. They're like, you know, Peter Huston, Vincent LaRue. They can kind of see which lines are being taken, how the GT4s are behaving. They can kind of gauge better how to act around these cars. But for the likes of Oleg Lovkov and Dayton Lowe, they're kind of out on a limb, trying to feel it out, work it out as they go. So that's going to be an interesting theme in the next few minutes. But look at the moves being sent a little bit wide in the end there. And we'll have to see if this is going to be a move being made in the end for what is, I believe, P11, or P12, I should say, with Will Jennings having to defend the position. He doesn't look comfortable, does he, at the moment? He's losing time to the cars in front, and the three behind him are all over the back of him.
Yeah, looks like James O'Brien flashed the headlights at him and just warned him he was going for the move, but the warning is not taken. Contact in the final corner. Both Jennings and O'Brien slowed up, and this is going to give a big chance for Christopher Rosario to make the move at the first turn. He's going to snatch a little more slipstream, though, off James O'Brien before he decides to go for the move. Oh, keep an eye out for the Porsche behind, though. Kaufhold's coming.
Yeah, he's just going to grab the inside line into the opening corner. Of course, flat out through there. Bit of a lift and a bit of a breakthrough here for the GT4s. And then you've got the inside line 2x2. It's Noah's Ark into turn 3. Oh, and there's a bit of contact on the exit as well with Will Jennings and James O'Brien having a little bit of a door banging, really towards the front door. But just about holding position if you are Will Jennings.
Oh, no.
For Christopher Rosario, though. Oh, no, he's taken to the other circuit, the other layout, it seems. And he's gone far too wide. He's going to lose all 3 positions if Rosario gets through, which he does. And somehow, in all of that, Rosario has come out in the same position that he started it in, as Reed Gibson makes a move for P4.
Yeah, Reed Gibson doing well to recover the positions that he lost in the opening laps. He's still down 1 from where he started. Aaron Myers and Matthew Wyckoff both gaining 1 position each on track. Of course, granting a second position for the unfortunate runnings for Sam Mayorga off the start. This is a very tight battle for third, isn't it? Wyckoff is continuing to hold off the charge of these 2 Mercedes, but you see the gap that Reed Gibson is starting to make up already. Has to focus on the exit of the final corner. Is this going to be enough for a run into the first turn?
Let's see, it doesn't look like any of them are close enough to be making any kind of moves at the moment, so that's not looking promising for any overtakes to occur. But this little group of 5 is providing us with some great racing action at this stage. Wyckoff leading the way in P3. Really, nothing that he can do, and you can't necessarily blame him with the 2 championship leaders out in front. They're pulling the gap away, and they are trying to have a bit of a battle between themselves. It's really that battle for P3, not just in this race, but probably in this championship as well, that Matthew Wyckoff is doing a very good job of. There's a send from Reed Gibson, and there is a hit on the rear for Matthew Wyckoff, who's lost 1 position, but somehow gets righted after a second bit of contact with the number 12 car. He's only lost 2 positions. Let's hope he hasn't got too much damage, but I'm sure he won't be too pleased at that one.
No, certainly not. His teammate as well, Darren Rutherford, having to check up there to avoid running into him, and that's put both Porsches in a bit of a tight spot, unfortunately. That's the danger of that section here at Navarra. very fast entry. If you commit to the inside, then you're going to come sailing through, and you've got to be careful not to run into the car on the outside. This is the onboard of that incident. Yeah, just looks like, Wyckoff, I think, ran a little wide there, and unfortunately, the Valhalla car, the door just was not open.
Tool, and that's going to be absolutely gutting for Wyckoff, but he's got the time to try and gain up to the back a little bit as well, so watch to see if he can make those moves back. For sure, he's only 3/10 behind Josh Lewis, and then he's a 2.5 behind Reed Gibson, so there's definitely possibility for him to make those moves, but here we go. Traffic is starting to become a factor. It's taken 12 minutes, my word! As it held, just about held. What a save!
Oh no!
And that'd be a massive. I could see that one coming. That's Vincent. There's Ryan O'Connor who's gone around after contact with the GT4 car. I'm not sure whether the GT4 miscalculated, a little bit annoyed at the contact, or whatever happened there. But Ryan O'Connor's come a cropper from the traffic on the first time around. And I'm not too sure what happened there exactly. It'd be easy to see with an onboard. But Garrett Pons missed his pit stop. I was going to say before all of that kicked off, Alec Bergstrom had an issue on that lap, and he's come into the pit lane as well. It was absolutely all kicked off here, Reese. I don't know where to look anymore.
Yeah, oh dear. Yeah, this is another view of it. So that's Declan Derber that got hit in the rear coming into the final corner, and he just couldn't get it slowed down for the final turn. That's a real shame. And Derber retiring back to the pits after that. But yeah, I feel sorry for him, really. You know, he was sort of forced into that by the initial contact from behind. The car was just too unstable to slow down in time as the LMP3s came through.
Yeah, Derber found himself in a derby there, didn't he, really, in that final corner? It was all sorts of chaos between all of the LMP3s and, of course, Declan Derber, who was just in the midst there. We're yet to see the leading LMP3 guys come through on this leading group of GT4s. So that is still to come. You can just see Lovkov in the background there, about to make his way towards this group. But here is Josh Lewis and Matthew Wyckoff. Wyckoff is losing time, hand over fist to Reed Gibson here. So he's going to have to get through as quickly as he can on the number 12. Inside line maybe, in towards turn 1. Going to think about it, but not for it in the end as we go through turn 1 and then through turn 2. Is he going to send it in turn 3? A little bit of a bump over the curb means that he's not able to. But here comes Lovkov. Can anything change in the orders of the top, or at the top of the orders in either class with this traffic now?
That is the question. Going to see a lot of line alteration, especially in this section, but the downforce of the LMP3 showing on full display there as Lovkov goes round the outside of the two lead cars in this pack and manages to keep it on the circuit as well. That would have compromised Josh Lewis a little bit. Now Wyckoff and Rutherford are fully together again in the two Valhalla Porsches. Got to be gentle, though. Here comes Dayton Lowe to make his way through. Hard braking zones in this part of the circuit. Is it going to be enough for him to get by? It will. Only just in the braking zone. He has cleared them.
Yeah, the LMP3s are about the same in the slow speed, aren't they? Not really much time that they can gain or lose in those parts of the racetrack, but through the faster corners, particularly as we saw at Motorsport, they can gain so much time. Here's the fight over P5 in the LMP3 battle. Peter Huston and Zach Hebert fighting it out. Hebert trying for the up and under, but Peter Huston just about making sure that he keeps himself in front. He's doing well in the championship. He's the man driving the 42, and he will be hoping to stay where he is. Through the final 3 corners, there's one of the LMP3 cars off, rejoining a little bit dangerously, trying to get themselves to pit road, I think. No, maybe not. That's a big old incident towards the back. There's Doug Sorrentino going up to P5 as Zach Hebert comes into the pit lane. But again, it's just all kicking off all over the road because all of the cars just find themselves on track next to each other.
Yeah, looking like it. Francis Castillo-Romero and the BMW is going to bring his GT4 in as the leaders continue on. This is such a difficult run, isn't it? Oh no, that's Josh Lewis that has spun in the GT4. He's going to have to do a 3-point turn to get himself righted. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is turning into a bit of a messier race than we saw even at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I mean, Dara, you were hoping for less chaos. I don't think you've gotten your wish.
No, at least we're getting it in our plumps, aren't we? We're not getting it all the way through. The first 10 minutes was relatively stable, but you can just see tapping. Oh, my word, that is a Code Brown moment if I've ever seen one. From the LMP3, just minding their own business, trying to avoid. Here is more contact, maybe down in towards the hairpin. The 44 around the outside, Huston on the inside in the LMP3, trying to make these positions himself. That's the 13 of Darren Rutherford. There's a send behind, though. I think that is B7, that's Ryan O'Connor, P6 I should say, making that move, making sure he gets through on these GT3s. But look at this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 9 cars in frame. That's a third of the cars in the entire race within 2 corners of the racetrack. So you'd think in a few minutes time, when they've all split themselves out a little bit more again, we might be having a chance to catch our breath.
Yeah, hopefully. Man, Ryan O'Connor arriving on the scene there, I was like, where did he come from? Oh, such is the ebb and flow of traffic, really, as it'll be a bit of an easier time for Calvin Myant and Vincent LaRue making their way through here. But Doug Sorrentino, he's become known for his lack of participation in qualifying, and the last to first challenge is going very well for him at the moment. The 31 up to P4 as Josh Lewis and Christopher Rosario, the teammates in the Mercedes GT4, into the pits for their stop. Interesting to see that we have a few GT4s that are going for that early stop, but I saw both of them had slight damage, which might have been affecting them. Remember, the new damage model on iRacing is just the damage model now. All cars have it, and those little bumps and taps that you get around the circuit, they are more significant than they used to be.
Yeah, it just shows how careful you have to be, especially in a race such as this. This is Reece Gibson being lapped the first time by everyone coming through. This is Vincent LaRue and Calvin Myant, the battle for P7 in the LMP3s, trying to overtake. But you can see in these slower speed corners, there isn't a great advantage. I know I keep harping on about it, but it is so important to note because these LMP3s are trying to make these moves deep into corners where they haven't really got the pace advantage that they might think about. So they've got to be so careful in making those moves. And whilst they do make those moves, these two, Aiden Young, Aaron Myers, they're going to be thinking about the likelihood of the LMP3s making their way through pretty soon, because we've got a clump of cars. I think that's Doug Sorrentino, Huston and Ryan O'Connor, not too far behind the leaders now, hoping to make a move in maybe a lap or two.
Yeah, that's the thing. Another thing about Navarra is that the only place where you're guaranteed a clean pass is down the start-finish straight with a good exit from the final corner. If you're trying to lap GT4s, pretty much the whole circuit is a danger zone. It is so tight, and the straights in the middle section, they just aren't long enough to get it done cleanly a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's so important that I think it comes into the inexperience of the track, doesn't it? Where these drivers haven't raced around here too much. Of course, they probably haven't raced in the other cars much at all, if at all. Meaning that they're not really aware of how the car kind of feels, how it runs through some of these corners. So overtaking these GT4s is going to be a bit of a learning experience, just to really see what works and what doesn't work. And I think that also could be a reason why we saw so much chaos on that opening lapping of all of the cars. We're not going to see too much more lapping in that regard because the lap is so long, but you can just see there ascend into this tight right-hander, and there's barely anything gained, and it becomes a little bit cagey near contact as well, and Aiden Young just about escaping through here.
Yeah, I think he's been pretty lucky so far with the LMP3s passing him, and he's built up a nice lead now over Aaron Myers, who will be certainly happy with second place, but maybe wanting a little more drama for Aiden Young up ahead. But like I said, start, finish straight, easy to make a clean pass there, and Aiden Young has certainly gotten lucky on that front. As into the pits comes Darren Rutherford, one of the Valhalla Porsches there. Aaron Myers also, well, no, Aaron Myers is still out on track. My apologies. Looking at the overlays a bit wrong there. But this is around about the time where we're going to be expecting most of the field to come into the pit lane with about 13 minutes remaining in the race. Majority of our front runners, they've decided to stay out for a very long time. That's the typical way we see the strategy go. There's still some racing to go on, though. Wyckoff versus Ostrich for 4th.
Yeah, let's see. Oh my word! Hello there, sir. Good evening. Welcome to the party. Matthew Wyckoff and Ostrich are fighting it out. That was quite a send by one of the LMP3 cars.
That was Bergstrom, I think.
Into the middle section. It might have been Bergstrom. Yeah, he's having an awful race, isn't he? Really, by his standards, down in P10, not getting nearly as many points as he would hope so, and going to have to be worried about that championship lead by the end of this race. You'd have thought he'll be happy, though, that Lovkov is currently beating Dayton Lowe and going faster. 35.2 is his new fastest lap of the race. But back to this battle for P4 and the GT4s and Wyckoff and Ostrich. I mean, that would have been a scary moment, particularly for Ostrich, maybe looking for a move on Wyckoff with the door completely shut on him. And with Young and Myers pitting, these guys are going to be fighting over a higher position in now, basically. Unless they pit, which they will, of course they are.
Covered off there by Matthew Wyckoff there. He saw that Ostrich was going for the pit lane and he thought, yep, okay, I'm going to come in too. Oh, so tight on the way in here at Navarra, isn't it? And Wyckoff having to immediately go for his box there right at the end of the pit lane. Very interesting indeed. Yeah, the pits at Navarra, I haven't visited them all that much, but that certainly looks like a big challenge. Battle for 4th in LMP3 still going on too. Sorrentino versus Huston versus O'Connor, who's just hanging on to the back of this battle. Got to be careful through this section. Battling GT4s ahead. It looks like Will Jennings and Joshua Lewis in the Mercedes there fighting over 14th place in the GT4 class. Sorrentino's going to go for it here, and that's going to lose some crucial time there for Josh Lewis, but it won't matter because Will Jennings has spun.
I don't know whether he was scared about the drivers behind him. I don't know what happened at all there for Will Jennings, but he's dropped it on his own there, and it's gifted, you know, that sense of comfort to his competitor. Dramatic moment there. I didn't really see that one coming, and I don't think the guys behind did either, but scary to see for them from their point of view. But for Ryan O'Connor, he will have seen that and come straight into the pit lane. He needs to take his mandatory pit stop with only 10 minutes left on the clock, and Calvin Might's going to do it as well.
Yep, so now our top 6 in GT4, top 6 in LMP3, sorry, are the only cars have yet to make a visit to the lane. All of our GT4s have taken their mandatory pit stop, and at the moment, it looks like as far as battles go, Wyckoff versus Ostrich still going on for 5th in GT4, 9th and 10th. Also battling Calholt and O'Brien. This is Calvin Mayent's pit lane entry. There's a reason that we're being shown the replay for this, and I think we're about to find out why. Very tight over the curb. Okay. What's the deal there? Is he one of the first boxers? What? I'm not sure what happened there.
Has he just decided that he doesn't want to go through the cones?
I don't know.
It's one of those things where you feel like you've seen everything in sim racing, and then you just see something just so totally random.
Did he accidentally catch neutral over the curb?
Maybe, but that doesn't make sense. Why he would then, you know, not go through the cones into the pit lane? All very weird. Regardless, four drivers who have definitely come into the pit lane are Lovkov, Lowe, Browning and Huston, as they are all stopped. Vincent LaRue is coming in as well, as everybody pretty much, apart from Doug Sorrentino, is going to come into the box. Sorrentino is going to come out just behind his, well, no, he's going to emerge, or Lovkov, I should say, is going to emerge in front of his teammate. There we go, that makes more sense. Which means that, I don't know, Doug Sorrentino, I'm not advocating for anything, but with Sorrentino still with a pit stop to take, could he play a little bit of a teammate game here for his teammate, Oleg Lovkov?
Yeah, this is interesting to see. I mean, Sorrentino's caught up to Lovkov with Lovkov having just come out of the pits. About another 3 seconds or so back to Dayton Lowe and Jake Browning. I'll be interested to see what Sorrentino decides to do. Meanwhile, you see those bumps in action there for Zach Hebert. A very shaky piece of racetrack in the LMP3s. Oh no, I think I've just seen a problem for Joshua Lewis. We've been following him in the GT4 class, and he's just gone back to the pits, and he has retired from the race. I'm not sure what's going on for the number 34, but we'll update you when we can. But keep our eyes peeled on Hebert and Huston here, with 5th place still up for grabs. Likely going to be 4th when Doug Sorrentino comes into the pits. We're seeing pit stops of about 6 to 7 seconds in the LMP3s. This is what happened to Lewis, and he just runs deep in turn 1 and pulls over. I think maybe he was in danger of exceeding the incident limit.
Yeah, or maybe a hardware issue as well. So interesting there for Josh Lewis. We're seeing lots of things we wouldn't have expected to see tonight, aren't we? So far in this race, we've only been going 28 minutes or so, and we have had we've got stories to tell that nobody would believe if they weren't filmed. So good job that they are. Here's Doug Sorrentino getting through and still behind his teammate Oleg Lovkov as they bump their way through. Sebring-esque at turn number 5. But Doug Sorrentino, he still needs to pit. You'd think he'd come in this lap, but I mean, there's still a couple of laps that he could decide to come into the pit lane, if not yet. But it's getting a little bit late now for the 31 car. Maybe he is just staying out to play that teammate game, because Dayton Lowe is now within a second of the 31.
Yeah, anything that Doug Sorrentino can do to keep Dayton Lowe behind will certainly help out Lovkov, who I think is just managing the race now. Don't know how many laps he has remaining in the tank, Mr. Sorrentino, but doing quite well at the moment. Looks like pit lane transit is round about 30 seconds. Oh my goodness, the leader just made contact with the GT4 there, and that's Lovkov now awkwardly making his way past as Sorrentino finally decides to go for the pit lane just as Dayton Lowe was on his heels.
Yeah, and we've got, what, 6 minutes to go. So let's see if I can do the maths. He'll cross the line. Let's give it 5 minutes 45, and they're doing 1 minute 35 lap time. So this could be another 4 laps pretty much. This is what this is what Lovkov happened. What happened to Lovkov, I should say. He's gone deep, and then he's almost covered off as if it was a defensive move thrown by the number 23 GT4 car, but regardless, Lovkov made his way through. His only concern now is that Kalen Tobin, that GT4 car that blocked him off, may have cost him a little bit more time to Dayton Lowe than he'd wanted, because that lead battle is now as close as it ever has been, with only a handful of laps left to go.
Sorrentino, meanwhile, pit stop complete, and he's come out back in 8th spot. So still up 3 spots from where he started, which isn't too bad. He's right on the back of this excellent battle for 5th place. Hebert and O'Connor, they're still fighting hard over 5th, but Alec Bergstrom has caught up to them. Bergstrom on a massive recovery drive after his goings-on the first lap. But where can he make the pass? Certainly not in this section, where it's very difficult to negotiate the bumps running off the circuit and short straights besides. This is Alec Bergstrom. My apologies. Yeah, it is Zach Hebert in the VR setup here. Oh, God, no. Around he goes. That's a big shame for Zach, and he will fall back to 9th place, potentially 10th, depending on where Christian Garreton is. But Sorrentino to the front of the pack.
He has had a beautiful drive so far tonight, the number 31 car, not having to spend too much time in the pit lane with the lack of fuel that he needs to put in the car, so he is going to benefit from that. I think,
Bergstrom's coming back in.
That's interesting that he's coming in. I'd also like to say that with Hebert coming around, that is the first time we went to him on broadcast this race, so we can firmly, I think, place the blame 100% solely on Dustin there. For the spin that Zach had. He obviously knew he was on camera, and it put him off. But yeah, he's had some issues. He's now back in 8th, but he's made Chuck Sorrentino doing an incredible job to be up in P5. You doubt he could get up to Peter Huston with only, what, 3 laps to go, but, you know, never say never. There's definitely a chance.
Absolutely is. Sorrentino will go round the outside of the BMW there and pincer move up the inside for Ryan O'Connor, who wants that top 5 position back.
Yeah, and he's just going to do everything he can to try and get it. These two are really both gaining on Peter Huston. That is probably because Huston caught these 3 GT4s in a very, very bad place. I think Doug Sorrentino is going to try and get at least 2 of them into this hairpin, if not a third. Let's see, how many does he get? 1. And a second on the inside. Yeah, going to get 2 with the card, which is good for him, as it's going to also hold up Ryan O'Connor behind him. Inside line for them for Sorrentino, and he will get that move behind them as well. You've also got the man in P7, Vincent LaRue, who's trying to work his way through after he got caught up a little bit in those incidents a couple of laps ago. But with Lovkov coming across the line just now, that does mean that we are going to have 2 more tours here, and the white flag will be next time around.
Yep, time running out to get your moves done, and in the case of Sorrentino, O'Connor and LaRue, it's a little bit of space between them, but the same can't be said here for Roy Brown and Jeff Kaufhold, with James O'Brien trying to get into the top 9 here in the slipstream. He's not going to go for the move just yet, probably aware that there's some LMP3s potentially behind them. Yeah, it looks like he's just backing off at the moment, trying to pick his move into the first turn here. Roy Brown doing very well to hold on to 8th spot. He's up 4 places. Magnificent run from the Mercedes. Kaufhold, meanwhile, in the position he started in, with O'Brien working his way up.
And it's been a fantastic race all the way through, and it's great to see these battles still so close together. That's a wide moment. That's a very wide moment. That's Vincent LaRue going off the track all the way around that long left-hander, I should say. And he is going to drop down behind Christian Garreton now. And Alec Bergstrom will be next in the queue, despite him having to do yet another pit stop. So it's all kicking off in the final couple of laps. Can Christian Garreton get himself past these GT4s into the hairpin? Doesn't look like it, as it's going to be a bit of a send behind him from Vincent LaRue, who's being a little bit bolder, but also a little bit snappier on the exit, as nearly Christian Garreton straight into the back of the GT4 there, as they make their way through. But with Oleg Lovkov sitting that fastest lap, that does mean the white flag has flown.
Yeah, white flag for Oleg Lovkov as these guys continue fighting. Bergstrom pitting twice and making his way through on those GT4s as we speak. And this is the view for our leaders. Dayton Lowe trying desperately to catch up to Oleg Lovkov. Now, this is a massive last lap charge here from Dayton. We'll have to wait and see if he can get it done. Lovkov certainly hasn't been without errors. I've seen a couple of small slides from him and maybe a couple of mistakes making his way past GT4s as well. But there's no traffic the rest of the way around this lap, we're hearing. So it is a full-on matchup between our top 2 here. And Lovkov extending by just a 10th on the exit.
Yeah, and the drivers that they've just lapped as well are the 2 leaders in the GT4s, Aidan Young and Aaron Myers. So they will come across the line pretty much immediately afterwards. So nice to see that we've got our 2 groups of leaders that are going to be crossing the line pretty much together in this race, because Oleg Lovkov, for one, has driven an absolutely stellar race. He took pole position. I think it's fair to say we were a little bit surprised that he was top of the timesheets. I'm sure he wasn't. He's a little bit further down on the standings, but he won't be for much longer, because Lovkov, out of the final corner, will just put his foot down, find Barney at the checkered flag, and he will win round 4 of the LMP3-GT4 Challenge in his LMP3 class. But in the GT4s, Aidan Young winning again, and he will extend that championship lead ahead of Aaron Myers, but by the barest of margins, as the number 22 runs home just behind him. Reed Gibson a distant third, as was Jake Browning in the LMP3s. But you have to say, Lovkov, Lowe, Young and Myers were the class of the fields tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just magnificent stuff from both of our winners. And shout out to Aaron Myers as well for making the gap as small as it was right at the end. This battle's still going on, though. Roy Brown in trouble with Jeff Kaufhold committing to the inside. Very deep indeed from James O'Brien. 3 wide through the final corner. And Brown and O'Brien make contact. And Brown was at the front of this pack coming into the final corner. And he's going to fall down to 12th, 13th maybe, if Pascal Dufresne will be able to catch up to him. It looks like he'll hold on to 12th, but man, I think Team Beef is going to have some beef after that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. 3 wide into the final corner, which is pretty much a hairpin, is absolutely crazy. And probably expectedly, didn't really work out there. There's Lovkov, stopped by the side of the road for his team, and I mean, they're number 69, you cannot fault him. And someone else I was just going to mention very quickly there was Francis Castillo-Romero. I don't think I've mentioned his name since the start of the race. He popped up in P9 with all that drama right at the end of the race. So well done to him for picking up a P9 after his heartbreak for the near top 5 last time out. But Dustin was rightly showing the 2 winners on the screen there because they really were the class of the field all evening long, and fully deserved their wins in their respective classes, with Aiden Young extending that championship lead just a little bit further, as we will be able to run through the classified or the not so classified results, the results that we've got from the timing tower, to show us who has won this race. And in the LMP3s, it was won by Oleg Lovkov, not by the biggest of margins though, 1.1 seconds, but he's not going to mind. He could win it by 1 second, he could win it by a minute, it would be the same amount of points regardless. Dayton Lowe second, and he'll be pleased to see his championship rival Alec Bergstrom so far down the order. It was Jake Browning third, very comfortably third, ahead of Peter Huston and Doug Sorrentino, who recovered incredibly well to 5th place. Ryan O'Connor pushed him hard in 6th, with Zach Hebert after his spin 7th. Christian Garreton, Vincent Leroux and Alec Bergstrom championship leader coming into this race in P10. Just the one more car in the LMP3s, and that was Calvin Mayen, who finished the race as well. So all 11 started, all 11 finished, and on the lead lap as well, which is great to see. Meanwhile, in the GT4 category, Aiden Young won out ahead of Aaron Myers by less than 1 second. Reed Gibson, very comfortable as well in 3rd place, with Darren Rutherford a long way further back, just ahead of Matty Wyckoff, who just about fended off Adam Oskridge, who finished in 6th. Kalen Tobin and Francis Castillo-Romero finished in 8th, not 9th, ahead of James O'Brien and Christopher Rosario, who rounded out the top 10. And they were followed in turn by Roy Brown, Pascal Dufresne, Jeff Kaufhold and Will Jennings on the lead lap. 14 drivers on the lead lap by the end of the race. Joshua Lewis was one of the drivers who didn't quite make the flag, and he's joined by Declan Derber, Sam Mayorga, Sean Mulholland, Jean-Philippe Tremblay and Rod Oulay, who were the 20 drivers in the race, and 4 of those drivers you can see pretty much not even getting off the line at all. So, I mean, credit where credit's due. What a race that was. I mean, we had chaos after about 10 minutes, Reese. We had drama all the way towards the end with that 3 wide moment on the final corner. Yeah, I think Navarra really has shaken things up tonight.
It absolutely has, but rising above it all, Oleg Lovkov in his first win of the season. He's with us now.
Hello, gents.
Yeah, Oleg, congratulations. A fantastic result for you. Talk us through that one, though, because you got pole position, and you had a great start, and you just didn't look like you looked back at all.
Yeah, it was a very calm race, I say, as I wipe the sweat off my forehead. I just didn't have any pace in practice, so I was not very happy with my performance in practice, but then quali went well, and the race as well. There were a couple of annoying moments where Dayton started catching up. But it was a pretty solid race, I think, for me. I was not expecting that result, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, well, it jumps you up in the championship standings. Coming into this race 9th, it's really going to put you into the picture now. Is this kind of a momentum that you can carry through the rest of the races? I mean, we've got quite a varied calendar. Mugello next week, you could kind of say, has some similar characteristics to this track. So is that now a target for you?
That would be the target, yes, to just keep the momentum. But this track, I just clicked pretty early on last week, and yeah, we'll see how Mugello goes. It's a pretty high downforce track, so we'll see.
One more word quickly about the traffic as well, because there were times where it looked a little bit tricky. I mean, in the low speed, was it difficult to really judge where the GT4s were going to go?
I mean, I understand the low speed because the corners come in a very quick sequence, and it's very hard to both look in the rearview mirror and not lose your line. So I can see how it can sometimes be a bit clumsy and not as fluent as it would otherwise could have been. But I didn't have any incidents with any of the GT4s, no major ones, at least. So yeah, happy to get out of this unscathed.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from you. But congratulations regardless. A fantastic win, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you again soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Leglovkov there, a deserved winner in the LMP3s. And Reese, I see you've got Aiden Young to speak to.
I have indeed. Well, fiercely forward, back on top once again at Navarra, Aiden, but certainly didn't look easy in the final stages with Myers breathing down your neck.
I don't know. Myers definitely kept me on my toes that entire race. He was flying. He even got me to the fastest lap by like I think 300. So we were both pushing, and I mean you can see that from him because he was pushing so hard. He had his car off the track completely sideways a couple of times, and I'm just like, if he catches me, this race is over for me.
Tough track indeed. It's deceptively difficult as Navarra, especially in a GT4. You got to try and negotiate the bumps. The curbs are a bit harsher than you expect. What's the place on the circuit that you feel was the most challenging?
Probably you got like you got the fast turn one, but then you go downhill and you got kind of a left-hander, and then you cut back left again. That little section right there is like, if your ABS kicked in barely just a tiny bit, you could miss the corner. And especially if you didn't play your trail braking right through there, you would kind of just go straight and you'd lose like 2 to 3 tenths, which in that race with me and Aaron, 3 tenths probably there, had I done that more than the one time I did it, probably would have costed me the win.
Yeah, indeed. Certainly didn't come easy, but it's still maximum points for you from this round. Mugello is up next. It's a very different circuit once again. We're back to those fast-flowing corners. How do you think the Mercedes is going to go there?
I think it should be good, but personally, I do not like Mugello. It is not a track I get on with. I for some reason, like, I can drive it in other cars and like other games, and I love it in other games, but on iRacing, I don't know what it is about the circuit. I don't like it. It doesn't treat me well.
Well, we shall see how your competitors fare relative to that, Aiden. Congratulations once again, and hopefully we'll be right here again next week having a chat to you after that.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff from Aiden Young once more. Class of the field in the GT4s. Final driver we're going to talk to, Dara, though, is Dayton Lowe, who finished second in LMP3.
Hey, yo, what it
Yes,
be? What it
Dayton
do?
Lowe. Yeah, well done, Dayton. Again, picking up some very, very good points in your championship challenge. I mean, Alec not finishing in the best position is going to help you out. But, I mean, talk us through that race, because it felt like once you got through for P2 after the first couple of laps, you weren't really able to catch Oleg with the pace that he had.
Yeah, Oleg had fantastic pace this race. It didn't help that I had aero damage from when I passed whoever I passed for P2. The car felt nowhere near as stable through some of these quarters, and it was just a bit sketchy, so I didn't have the confidence. And I haven't touched iRacing in about 7 days. So, having done literally zero practice, I'm content with this result, and I finished ahead of Alec, which is going to help me in the points. So I really can't complain too much about this race. I'm happy where I ended up.
Yeah, I mean, the traffic looked like it was difficult for everybody to get through. Were there any big moments that you had? Because there were so many that we didn't catch all of them. But where were the problem spots for you when it came to lapping the traffic?
I didn't really have any problems lapping traffic. The most of the problems I had was a combination of a skill issue and my vehement hatred for this circuit. But other than that, no, I really didn't have any problems with traffic. It was pretty easy going.
Dear. And then a quick word on next week's track, Mugello, popping over to Italy. Is it one of the tracks you like? Aiden said he didn't like it in the GT4s. Is it one you're looking forward to in this car?
Well, I'm excited. I think I had my biggest winning margin last time I did LMP3 there, so fingers crossed I can pull it off again. Fingers crossed.
Well, hopefully you can, and hopefully we'll speak to you again next week. But Dayton, congratulations on the P2, and we'll maybe see you in 7 days' time.
I appreciate it. Y'all take it easy now.
You know there, P2 man in the LMP3s, and congratulations to him on his result. Next time out, we will be, as we mentioned, at Mugello, and as we say goodbye to Navarra, Mugello is going to serve us, I think, very well in 7 days' time. That, of course, was the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, our first race of the evening, but of course, there's one more to come. We wouldn't be having a PRL Monday night if we weren't looking forward to the GTP and GT3 series. And Reese, I have to say, I'm very much looking forward to this race. I've been looking forward to it for 7 days. It's the most sport race in this category, and surely this is going to be absolute chaos.
Yeah, it's wet as well, so you know that the chaos is going to come thick and fast. But Interlagos for the next round of GTP and GT3, then Fuji, Road America, Barcelona, and the Circuit de la Sarthe to round out the season. Beautiful schedule here.
Yeah, of course, we've got Motorsport, and then we've got some classic tracks. It almost feels like Motorsport's just been chucked in here randomly, but I am absolutely here for it. But let's see what is going on in the championship standings, because Pat Pelchat, he has just been the class of the field so far. He has a 37-point advantage over Alex de Almeida, and you can see from de Almeida in second down to Nathan Ray in 10th, there's a 15-point gap. Carter is third with Graham Wildmon in 4th. Jack Hedgecox and Nicholas Schwartz are tied on 129 points in 5th and 6th. Darian Roy and Ray Kingsbury tied on 125 with Rodrigo Abreu just behind, and as I mentioned, Nathan Ray in 10th. In the team standings for the GTPs, the picture looks, though, as if we've got a very much six-way fight for the championship. Solpec Precision Racing can go win, Blue McCaw eMotorsports, Solpec Precision Racing QC, Waterback Racing Overdrive, along with Pax Oceani, a rule split by only just 26 points. Simcar a long way back, Fiercely Forward even further, and Vice yet to get off of the mark, but massive battle in that GTP teams. In the GT3 drivers, we've got a little bit of a closer championship. Brett Gardner leads the way with 165 points. Jake Cummings and Corey Saccone are tied on 150. Chris Stewart and Ted Lovendick, 142 and 135, puts them 4th and 5th, with William Fenson leading the brothers in 6th. Richard Saavedra, Eric Fenson, Sean Murphy, and Bowie Suen rounding out the top 10. In the teams championship, it is a little bit clearer for Tech Sport Academy by AMS to be leading the way. They've got 315 ahead of the Fenson brothers and Big Fast Racing. Drivetrain Motorsport, Takitron, Kion, SimSport, and DFL Racing are the 6 teams above 200 points, with Solpec Precision Racing, Waterback Racing, Backrow, and AGS Blackthorn Racing, the other teams in this category. But there are the standings leading into this race. But look at the track. This is going to be absolute abject chaos. This is wet, this is wild, there's going to be cars all over the road. Anything could happen here, Ace. Anything.
Absolutely. And I mean, it isn't demonstrated any clearer than it is right now, just where the bumps and dips at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park are. Seeing Pelchat make his way around for his final qualifying lap, and we're getting a very good tour of this place in wet conditions. You know, wet racing, you have to be careful to alter your line. You can't take your typical racing line around this place, and the inside, it seems, has quite a bit of a dip on a lot of these corners. Pelchat is just searching for those less shiny areas of the racetrack where there's a little more grip available.
Yeah, it's such a tricky track to get 100% right, and you can just see the puddles forming all the way through that hairpin down at turn number 5. So it's going to be so difficult for these guys, I think, to pick their way through in the fastest way possible. So this is going to be interesting to see what the times are going to be telling us. And there you can see at Pelchat, look at that advantage. This is a 1 minute 16 lap, and 8/10 is just mighty around here.
Yeah, it is certainly is. Pelchat is class of the field as he has been for most of the season. Carsten Quint, though, with a big improvement up to P5 as Pelchat gets into the 1 minute 15 second bracket. That is 1 second over the rest of the GTP field. Brett Gardner is on pole in GT3, which is a very familiar spot for him. But Sean Murphy is going to try and make some kind of improvement here right at the end of the session in his last couple of laps. 1 minute 28.3. That is 0.4 of a second he's got now over Brett Gardner, who still has to respond. He's still out on track in his Corvette.
Yeah, and that is an incredible time there for Sean Murphy. Making his way through. But, I mean, Brett Gardner as well, he'll be looking to improve, no doubt. 0.4 back from the leader, but just look at some of those gaps there. Ted Lovendick in the GT3s, he was on pole last week at Daytona. He's currently 1.4 seconds off around Motorsport. Bradley Holly's improved up to 8th in the GTPs, but he's over 2 seconds off the pace. We are really seeing some big gaps, and you can just see the puddles. And I think there's no doubt that that has more than something to do with it.
Yeah, some drivers have a bit of a tougher time adapting to wet conditions than others, and you are driving every single corner as it comes in wet conditions. You're searching the road ahead, seeing, oh, hang on a minute, there's too much water in that location. I'd better not go across that part of the racetrack. And, oh, Gardner is a little deep there in the third last corner. That's his last lap, completely balked, and he will not be able to overcome Sean Murphy for provisional pole. Is there anyone else in the GT3 category that might be able to topple the number 11?
Looks like Jake Cummings is on a lap with that predicted time nowhere near. Oh, actually, no. Very much near where he'd want it to be. 29.3. He might be in with a shout. Mathieu Denise has gone up to P9 as well in the GTPs, but let's see what Jake Cummings can do through the final couple of corners. Not making the same mistake as Brett Gardner and drifting out wide into the S's here. You've got to keep your lines tight in towards the final corner. And let's see, dipping his way through onto that curb and out onto the main straight. Where does Jake Cummings put himself? Is it an improvement? It might just not be. And in the end, it's not. A 29.7 is a couple of tenths off of what he'd already done. Here's Chris Stewart. I think he is a long way down. Indeed, he is a long way down on his time. And I'm struggling to see who else is going to be able to finish here.
Yeah, only 40 seconds left in the session, and I think we don't have any drivers that are near finishing a lap at the moment. But, I mean, you saw it demonstrated right there with Jake Cummings at the end of the lap. He just went a bit too wide out of the final corner and ran through the effective river that is on the exit of the final turn. And you saw his predicted lap time just fall away from there. That is how difficult it is in wet conditions around CTMP. I mean, you can see, just look at the ripples at Moss Hairpin. That is incredible stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's the 6th Great Lake forming, realistically, down there at the Moss Hairpin. But with all the drivers finished in their qualifying sessions, we can have a look at the grid for this evening's race. And it will be championship leader once again, Pat Pelchat leading us to green by over a second in a dominant display in qualifying. Jeremy Carter will be second. Alex de Almeida and Nathan Ray are on the second row, with Nathan Bartley and Carsten Quint on the third. A couple of drivers there looking to pick up some big points. Graham Wildmon and Bradley Holly 7th and 8th, with Matthew Denise and Jeff Evans, the 10 drivers in this race, which means that we're going to be able to show all of them on the timing tower, which makes it easier for us up here in the commentary box, that's for sure. But there isn't such a small grid in these GT3. Sean Murphy and Brett Gardner are on the front row, and they really were the class of the field, with William Fenton nearly a second, back in third. Doug Evans, Jake Cummings and Ted Lovendick are the top 6, but again, those gaps do open out with Eric Fenton and Mark Kalin nearly 2 seconds back. Chris Stewart and Evan Henneman are on the 5th row. Nathan Jennings and Bowie Suen 11th and 12th. A few more drivers still to come. Thomas Yankee and Daniel Trinker 13th and 14th. Kerry Corcoran is 15th, and then Richard Saavedra and Gabriel Alvarado. Neither of those two at the back setting lap times. So of unknowns. Kerry Corcoran, I'm sure, is faster than that time of 11 seconds off the pace, but 27 cars in the field, so not the biggest of grids that we've ever seen, I think it's fair to say. And let's get your magnifying glass out for that aerial shot, because I can barely see a thing. But regardless, it doesn't matter how many cars there are on track, this is still going to be pretty wet, pretty wild, and probably quite crazy as well.
Yeah, I think the drivers will be grateful for the full formation lap here, because it'll give them a slight opportunity to move some of that water out of the way, but man, the rain is not going to stop. 66 Fahrenheit track temperature, 19 degrees Celsius, and there's light fog in the session as well. 16 mile per hour wind gusts as well, which is certainly going to play havoc in the faster corners around here. And I just looked at the weather radar on my end. You can see it here. Look at that massive cell of rain that's coming over the circuit as we speak. It's going to clear up in a couple of minutes, but man, it's going to do nothing for the slickness of the track.
It's a bit like Pocono at the weekend, isn't it, where it had the only storm pretty much in the entirety of the northeast of the US at the weekend, and we're getting that big old splodge of rain onto the circuit. Here at Motorsport, you love to see it. We're getting a bit of well, it's a good job we're not getting this in the winter. The game isn't set to the winter, otherwise it would be very much lake effect snow, you'd think. But here at Motorsport, the rain, it is teeming, and it just feels more like a bit of a flat span at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Goodness gracious. Well, now we'll oh wow, yeah, you see just how deep the puddles are at the moment. It's ridiculous how wet it is there on the exits of these corners, and the amount of spray that's going to be thrown up by the GTPs I think is another element we need to look out for, because these things produce their downforce through the underbody by quite some margin. Though they do have aerodynamic devices on the top, it's largely the underbody that provides a lot of the grip in these cars, so they will be throwing up those rooster tails, making it difficult for everyone further back in the field.
And let's just see then who's going to be able to... Oh, hello! Someone's gone around. Someone's gone around before we even got going in this race. Is that Graham Wilton? It is the number 53 car, and Graham has already spun himself around, just showing how difficult these conditions are, because he wasn't even at full pace.
Yeah, it's really interesting. He just got on the power a bit too hard at the exit of Moss there. And the white line, I think, as well, and the curb, you know, they get extra slippery in wet conditions, so I think that's the reason why he spun around. Keep an eye out for that throughout this race. Drivers touch those painted white lines on the edge of the racetrack, they are guaranteed to go around.
Yeah, let's see what does unfold here in Canada. Pat Pelchat looking at his flag. It looks like this is his home race, and I hope I'm right on that. So let's see if he can deliver and extend that championship lead here on home soil. That we've got the LMP, the GTP battle on the left, the GT3 battle on the right. But here comes Pat Pelchat through the final corner to get us underway here at Motorsport for round 4 of the season. And he's got us away very cleanly indeed. No one going to be fighting him down in towards the opening corner, as they're going to be fighting in behind. Alex de Almeida is in that battle along with Jeremy Carter as well. But there's a driver off in the background hitting the wall as well, as the GTPs have all made their way through. In the GT3s, there's a car around already as well before they've even got to the line. So there's always drama in those GT3s. They'll make their way through the opening corner as there's more cars into the barrier.
Oh, Carsten Quint with a massive off there in turn 2. That car is destroyed. He won't be making his way around any further. We saw Jeremy Carter, Jack Hedgecox, and Darian Roy as well, I think, having problems in the GTPs on lap 1. Well, Sean Murphy is holding on to the lead in GT3, but it looks like William Fenson has gone off at turn 2 as well. There's a Ferrari behind that's having issues too. Evan Henneman, Bradley Holly also having issues. My God, that's a BMW around. No, it's a Mustang of TJ Yankee on the right side of your screen. Jeez, this has been a ridiculous first lap. Oh my God, and from third place, Alex de Almeida running into the barriers in the third last corner. I don't know how to call this, Dara. There's way too much happening for my tiny lizard brain.
And when I threw it over to you just a minute ago, I could see 3 cars off on both of the screens, which is absolutely crazy. That is not what the GTP is meant to look like. That wheel, I think, I'm no expert, should be attached to the car. So not looking good there for Alex de Almeida, who's down in P10 and looking in a lot of trouble. Brett Gardner. We've seen so many drivers go off in the same corner. We saw it with the Fenton brothers, or Fenton coming off down at turn 3, having the issue, and then someone following him doing it as well. We've had drivers getting towed already. You can see there that only 8 of the GTPs have made it through the opening lap. We've got Darian Roy in the order, who wasn't on the timing tower. Matthew Denise is up to P4 in that category. Nathan Bartley's up to 2nd. We've got in the GT3s, all manner of things have gone. Eric Fenson's up to 3rd. No, he's not, because he's gone off the track. Brett Gardner goes through. Ted Lovendijk will go through. This is absolute chaos, just as we expected it to be.
Yeah. Oh, careful at the Porsche there. Oh, no. That's the number 4 there of Nathan Jennings, who was reacting to Fenton coming back onto the racetrack and just completely lost it on the way into turn 3. These conditions are so treacherous. We've lost so many front-running cars so far. Nathan Ray is another one of the drivers that's dropped out of the GTP class, and he was running 2nd.
This is just chaos. If this was a professional race and they were trying to make highlights for it, I don't think they'd be able to cut much of it out, because this is going to be, I'm sure, 42 more minutes of just pandemonium over this racetrack. Who can just survive to the end? That's really what this is. This isn't racing, this is survival, because there goes Matthew Denise off the road, or probably out of the race. I was saying how well he was doing to be up in the position that he was. He's now gone. We've got other drivers off as well. Sean Murphy's just about kept it on the racetrack, and he leads these GT3 class. But oh my word, if you haven't gone off the track yet, really it's a miracle, and you're going to be far further forward than your competitors. Oh, that's a blinking. I thought the car disappeared there.
Yeah, a little bit of a problem there in GT3. This is an interesting battle. Richard Saavedra is at the front of this fight here in the yellow Corvette. He's getting caught up a bit by Evan Henneman and Gabriel Alvarado as well. The Mustang at the front of the pack having some tech issues is Daniel Trinka. And oh no, Sean Murphy now off too. Murphy, our pole sitter in GT3, is out. They're dropping like flies, Dara.
I have to say, I never thought I would ever start a race with, what, we've got 30 drivers at least in this race, as Daniel Trinka now has issues. I'd never thought I'd go into a race with at least 30 drivers and think, are we actually going to get to the end of the race in terms of time? Look, there's Trinka on the inside. There's 3-4 cars trying to come round at turn 1. The Trinka beached himself. Trinka's beached. Oh my, no he's not. Yes, he may be. I don't know. But we really do have to start considering, Reese, and I don't think it's going to be a controversial opinion, how many drivers are actually going to make the flag, because there's more contact down at Moss. We just about saw it there.
I've got my head in my hands right now, mate. This is crazy stuff. Like, the only driver that hasn't had some kind of issue so far is our GTP leader, Pat Pelchat, and Jake Cummings as well in the GT3s. They are the only ones who have somehow managed to rise above all of the chaos. We keep an eye on Pat Pelchat, as he's already making his way through on GT3 traffic to start his 5th lap of this race. We're only 5 laps in. And how much have we seen?
Oh my, there we go. Chris Stewart's off the track. I don't know whether to be, surprised, excited that there's a driver off the road anymore. It's more surprised that they're on the track at the moment. Here's Jake Cummings and Brett Gardner.
Whoa.
This is the battle for the lead in the GT3s. Gardner looking for the move, Cummings having none of it. Make their way down into Moss. I was going to mention that you said Pat Pelchat's kept himself out of trouble. I think he may have had some kind of off or an issue, because he was 3.5 seconds in the lead ahead of Nathan Bartley, and that gap did come down. So unless Nathan Bartley just had more pace, there was definitely something that happened to Pat Pelchat up at the front. But look at Brett Gardner. What can you look at? Barely anything because of the spray.
Nathan Bartley. was running in second in GTP. He's just had a massive crash at Moss. He was trying to make his way around Richard Saavedra, and they made contact with each other. So traffic especially treacherous here.
Oh, my word.
Oh, yeah, you see how it happened there. Rear end into the barrier, and race done.
Now, I just want to make a point here. Does that mean that we've only now got 5 GTPs left? That's got something.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. We only have 5 GTPs left running in the race. 14 of our 17 GT3s, meanwhile.
So, yeah, this is going to become a bit of a GT3-dominated race pretty quickly. Or maybe not, as Richard Saavedra is going around down at the penultimate corner. But, my word, Kaglin's gone off as well. I mean, the one person I feel worse for at the moment is our broadcast director, Dustin Ollis, who is trying his best to show us and you everything he can. But there is just, quite frankly, too much going on for everything to be shown. But he's doing a great job to try and get us all of that. Bradley Holly's up to P3. The man with the T-cam is having a great race so far. Let's see how long that can last. But then again, I mean, at this point, the worst place he could finish is P5. So it can't get much worse. But this is the battle for first again in the GTPs, as Cummings and Gardner fight it out.
Yeah, GT3 lead battle, and well, we saw something similar to this at Daytona. Unfortunately for Brett Gardner, he made a mistake in the final runnings of last week's race and ended up finishing third, with Cummings taking victory, as Jeremy Carter and Bradley Holly go side by side into the penultimate corners, and it looks like just managing to get the move done cleanly. Got one of the Fensons up ahead of them. Need to be careful where to pick their lines. Holly's trying to find a way through, but wisely not going for it immediately. He's going to try and stay as close to Carter as he can here. Oh my god, the visibility would be ridiculous for the GT3s.
Quite frankly, I think this race would be red flags if this was the real world. But as we are, oh, this is the T-cam. I've been waiting for this for weeks. This is what
you can't see anything. What?
I have to say, I think this also might have something to do with the camera that he's using. But you physically cannot see a thing out the front there.
Wow!
Not a jot. I feel
Graham Wildman.
Must be able to see. Wildman. Graham leads the race. Pat Pelchat, you're right. He's gone off of the track, so Pat's had an off. Graham Wildman leads. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Here's what happened to Pat Pelchat, just losing the rear end and just such a lazy spin, really. He's gone around, doesn't want to hit anybody. Is there a code brown? No, he gets around pretty nicely. But then through goes Graham. Incredible. He spun around before we even started, Reese.
Yeah, wow. Shows you that you can come back from anything, really, and I think the Graham Wildman fan club in the chat is going to be very happy with how things are going right now. But Graham's still got 35 minutes to negotiate, and this battle for what is now third, it's P3. Yeah, battle for third in GT3. Lowendick versus Fenson there, trying their best to negotiate each other as the GTPs negotiate them.
I mean, we have done 10 minutes of this race, 10. We've got 35 to go. This is absolutely crazy, quite frankly. There's no other way around it. But here comes Pat Pelchat trying to make his way through all the time while he's trying to make his way through in these GT3s, losing time to Graham Wildman and to Jeremy Carter and Bradley Holly as well. We might be having a three-way fight for P2 in the not-too-distant future, but Bradley Holly is struggling to get through this GT3 traffic. Oh my word, I'm going to have to, this is incredible, quite frankly. The racing has been, well, not really existent, really, but it's just absolutely sublime. Maybe a little bit of smoke there from one of the cars, depending on how much spray there is to really tell. But Brett Gardner and Jake Cummings leading the way, and they've got some GTPs very keen to get through.
Yeah, I do believe that was our broadcast director saying he needed a smoke, and he doesn't smoke after that action. And yeah, I tell you what, I'm of the opinion, who needs caffeine? It's just coming up to 10 a.m. here in Perth, Western Australia, where I am, and well, I've already been one coffee down. I don't think I need a second after how this race has woken me up, but it looks like we're past most of the chaos, touch wood, and Ted Lowendick and Eric Fenson can fight over the last spot on the podium, but you see how much Fenson's struggling there for grip on the exit of turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, he nearly, called it perfectly, saying that maybe we're past it and there was an airplane crash there, but nothing going. Jack Hedgecock has the fastest lap now in P6, as there is no rear wing on that car. I'm not too sure who that was. But it's Jeremy Carter, and there's no rear wing on that car. That's going to need some mending. Before I go any further, though, as we actually watch what happened, goes wide, hits the wall. Yeah, that's not ideal, but yeah, it could have been worse there for Jeff Carter, but still not ideal. I was going to say to people at home who obviously who aren't listening here in the box, Dustin Aria often will say a couple of words just to kind of help us through of what we're looking at. And I heard the word smoke, and I presumed that was exactly what we saw. Clearly, Reese heard the words before that.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's all fun and games here in the comms box, isn't it? Pelshart is having some fun out there. Look at his fastest lap, 119.5. That is a second clear of Graham Wildman's fastest lap. And Pelshart was able to make up in excess of 1.8 seconds on that previous lap. So he may have lost the lead, but he's going to do everything he can to try and get it back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is outrageous racing that we're seeing. There's someone going off behind. You can see in the rear view mirror from Pat Pelshart's point of view. That was a GT3 going off. And a rear wheel missing for Bowie Suem. This is just... It's too much to keep up with, quite frankly. They need to slow down a little bit. That's Jake Cummings trying to overtake Bowie Suem, which he will do down at Moss. My word, there's Jeff Carter in the pit lane. Yeah, for reference, Jack Hedgecock is P6 in this race. He is 2 laps down. 2 laps down.
Yeah, that's crazy. As the battle for the lead has closed up massively, it is Cadillac versus Acura here. Pat Pelshart, the class of the field in the season so far. Graham Wildman, though, able to nab a fantastic result when things go his way, and he tries his hardest to the very end. Wondering how hard of a defense he's going to put up, and if he does, whether or not it works for him. Because, I mean, all you got to do is look at the racing surface and see how little room there is to find grip.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so slipping and sliding all over the place. I would like to notice as well that I got it wrong, because Jack Hedgecock, who is 6th in the fastest class, is not actually in P6. P6 is Brett Gardner, who is not even in P6. Brett Gardner is in P5. Because he's ahead of Jeremy Carter as well. This is just incredible stuff. There you can see the list properly split out. I don't think, if you told me 15 minutes ago that a GT3 would be 5th, I'd be heavily concerned, and for good reason, quite frankly.
Yeah, indeed. It just goes to show how difficult the GTPs are to negotiate in the wet conditions. And the GTPs have been improved in the wet from when rain was first introduced. I remember trying to get a Cadillac around Le Mans when the weather system first came in, and it was impossible. I couldn't even make the corners, but it was improved. But the drivers are still having plenty of problems out here at the moment. This is absolutely ridiculous. So we'll go back and see some of the earlier crashes. This is Darian Roy in the Porsche, and it looks like coming together with one of the Cadillacs there. I'm not too sure who that was, but he managed to save it coming into Moss. Oh, yeah, that's the exact same location that our leaders are coming through right now.
And Graham Wildman, Ken, if you told him 15 minutes ago after he spun around down at Moss on the formation lap that he'd be leading the race, I don't think he'd quite have believed you, but he is now, and let's see how much he can keep this up with, because he's got 29 minutes to hold on if he can. I mean, that is a long time, especially with the pace that Pat Pelshad is currently showing. The 919 car that is, just, with no offence to Graham, superior to everybody on the racetrack at this stage. Here comes a move, though. Eric Fenson is being lapped, I should say, by one of the GTPs, is just in behind him. More action with William Fenson, his brother, ahead of Kerry Corcoran. There are a couple of drivers, I believe, that have, of course, had some crashes, but are now back out on track. The likes of Alex de Almeida, Matthew Denise, they're back out on tracks. We do have more drivers back in the field. It just shows how many drivers that have had issues. That Jeremy Carter, who we saw 2-3 minutes ago, even if not more, without a rear wing, is still P5 in class.
Yeah, it shows how much time has been lost for many of the drivers that had issues. Looks like Chris Stewart there in the Corvette going off at Moss. That's provided 5th place in GT3 for Evan Henneman, who seems as, well, he's had his fair share of problems, as has everyone, but he's managed to keep a smooth race out of it regardless. The onboard here from Graham Wildman, this is what a clear track ahead looks like. You know, you can barely see your entry points into the corners. You're just searching for those sort of those rougher looking portions of the racetrack, and you've got to be careful not to go too wide on the exit here, because there's a huge puddle there that we saw. It was Jake Cummings running over in qualifying. You know, this with Pat Pelshart, the championship leader, breathing down your neck, it's got to be some massive pressure that Graham's under.
Oh, no doubt about it. With 27 minutes to go in a position that I don't think he'd have expected to be in, with the fastest driver on the racetrack behind him, applying some pressure in wet conditions at a probably somewhat unfamiliar track. I mean, it's not the kind of situation you'd want to be in if you were leading the race, but let's see what he can do with the situation that he's been given, diving his way into the Mars hairpin, about to lap a couple of other drivers in the GT3s. Let's see if he makes a move into their second part of the hairpin, and he does, because the GT3 actually very kindly gets out of the way, it seems, for those two, and doesn't bother them too much. It looked like it was this will be, I should say, Jack Hedgecock's having his issues, and you can just see him going around again. And basically doing a lovely pirouette. Nicely done.
Yeah, very well recovered from Jack Hedgecock's. Unfortunately, he's one of the drivers who lost quite a bit of time in the pits, 4 minutes and 15 seconds, as here is big traffic for our leaders, and Pelshart decides, no thank you, I don't want any of that, I'm going to come in and get some more fuel.
I mean, yeah, this is incredible stuff for Pelshart to be in the pit lane now. He'll drop down to P4, but he's got 3 laps back to Jeremy Carter. I don't think he'll be too worried about that. But there's Pat Pelshart into the box now. First box there is, and he'll get in and out, and he'll be hoping to go to the end, you'd have thought. He should be able to get to the end. That's Eric Fenson! Can he hold it? Just about! Oh my word, isn't going to go airborne nearly in that 777 car. He is creating lines, nearly hitting the camera there, nearly a deceased cameraman on the racetrack. But Eric Fenson there, he's just finding a racetrack, and he's finding some grass, and he's just creating a new one, because it might be a better racing line out there.
Yeah, you never know. Might end up with more grip on the grass by the end of this. Jeff Evans and Pat Pelshart at the moment. Pelshart just coming out of the pits behind Evans. We'll see what the pace difference is like. Pelshart will have a little more fuel in the car now, having taken his mandatory pit stop, and that should introduce a little bit more stability for Pelshart. That's the thing that a lot of people don't initially think about in wet conditions. Having more fuel in the car can actually be a benefit in these conditions, because you're relying so much on mechanical grip when the track is wet. You have a little more weight pressing the tires down in the slow corners. Weight distribution is improved. I think Pelshart's going to be lovely and quick here if he can get by Evans.
like a shopping trolley, isn't it, really? When you've got more on the shopping trolley, of course, a little bit easier to not hit into somebody, really, and that's basically the same theory. As Pelshat will get past Evans as he's boxing on the inside, and we'll get past that GT3 as well on the run down in towards the opening corner. Not even half distance in this race yet here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, but Graham Wildmont does lead. Bradley Holly is in that fight, though, as Pelshat's gone wide. He's off, he's into the grass. He's going to lose the position to Jeff Evans again. He's definitely going to make sure that he doesn't lose any of his wheels or wings or aerodynamic components, and hopefully he'll have got away with that. But look at that puddle.
Yeah. Like you said, it's another Great Lake that is forming here in Bowmanville, Ontario. I'm running out of superlatives to describe the state of the track at the moment. I have never seen a racetrack this wet before at the PRL. I mean, LMP3 and GT4 at Misano a couple weeks ago, that was really wet, but this, I think, tops it.
Yeah, not like this.
Look at the weather radar. See that little arm of the rain that's extending out? It's hanging around. It's saying, hey, Mosport, I'm not done with you just yet.
If you can watch it again, you can just see it just appears just to make sure that it stays there. Just to make sure we still get some more rain. Meanwhile, on track, Brett Gardner slowing a little bit in this battle for the GT3 lead, with Jake Cummings taking a bit of an advantage, but he's got half a minute back to Eric Fenson. So a little bit of a cushy gap for the 151 car. Look at just the chaos at turn one. There's 5 cars here. Pat Pelshat's one of them. Corcoran's another one of them in the GT3. Boxed in is Jeff Evans, who's been somewhat done over again. They'll make their way down into turn 2. There's just nowhere to catch your breath for us, for the drivers, for anybody really, as there's another move being attempted on Corcoran there. I believe that's Jeremy Carter, who's now 3 laps down, but inside line at turn 3 will get that one done.
Oh, not without a little bit of a snap in the middle of the corner, though. Carter, one of the many GTPs on some form of recovery. I mean, at the end of the day, I think for the majority of our GTP field, they've had massive crashes. They've had huge offs in the first part of the race. Now they're just focusing on getting to the checkered flag to try and get classified for points. You don't want to lose a whole round's worth of points this early on in the season.
And that move, actually, from Jeremy Carter on Kerry Corcoran in this red, white and blue car that we're just seeing now was for overall position. Just to give you a sense of how long Jeremy Carter spent in the pit lane. So there's Kerry Corcoran being, I believe, lapped there in the GT3s, having a difficult time, just trying to pick the way through these wet weather conditions. Pelshat fastest lap. Maybe trying the undercut with the strategy that he's gone for, but we will have to wait and see if it does indeed work out. At this point, there's GT3s overtaking GT3s being overtaken by GTPs. So we've got 20 minutes to go. I don't quite know what else is going to happen in this race, or how much rain we're going to get. How much more rain?
Yeah, it's certainly showing no signs of letting up. Well, the Tech Sport drivers are nice and stable in their 1-2 in GT3. A couple of positions that they've held quite a few times this season so far. But just like it was at Daytona, it is Jake Cummings in the lead with Brett Gardner, the championship leader, chasing. Brett put down some fantastic drives in the opening rounds, some dominant pace in the dry. He's having a bit of trouble in the wet, though. It seems like Jake Cummings just has a little bit of an edge over his teammate. And Pat Pelshat certainly has an edge over Graham Wildman on pace, but I think with Pelshat's mistakes that he's made, comparatively, Wildman has been a little smoother in the GTP lead. So I'm predicting he might be able to keep the lead when he eventually comes into the pits, but Pelshat is trying to narrow that gap as much as he can with a new fastest lap once again. These two GT3s, meanwhile, having to make way for a GTP. I think that actually is Pelshat. No, it's not. Making his way through on them, and oh dear, Brett Gardner. Oh, wow, that was close.
Yeah, that was massively close. Who was that in the end then? They are into the wall now. I think that was Pat Pelshat, actually.
No,
he's dropping down.
it was Matthew Denise.
Regardless, Pat Pelshat's had some kind of issue because he's dropped down the time page a little bit, or maybe that was just The timing page glitched, but it was Denise okay in the end. Just looking at the timing tower there, he was falling away. I thought actually maybe it is, but no. Okay,
Technical
Matthew
problem
Denise.
maybe for
I think I
Pelshot, but
love that.
yeah, Denise trying to make his way
Denise.
past, and yeah, just getting a little tap from Brett Gardner there.
He'll be back onto the back of these two pretty quickly as well, so we'll have to see if we can get through cleanly this time, and he'll be hoping to. And I think Brett Gardner might be a little bit kinder in letting him pass, just if anything, say sorry for that one. 18.5 minutes left to go. A few drivers yet to come into the pit lane, the likes of Graham Wildmont, Bradley Holly, and Jeff Evans have been in the pit lane. Really, of those four, 3 of them are going to be on the podium. Those 4, including about Pelshot, 3 of them are going to be on the podium, because Carter's and Hedgecock's are so far back that even a few spins won't get them anywhere near.
Yeah, it's a long way back for everyone outside of the top 4 in GTP, which are also the top 4 overall. Jake Cummings still holding on to the overall 5th place here. If we were scoring by overall points, this would be a massive payday for the GT3 class.
Yeah, this is an incredible day for a couple of these drivers who are definitely going to be picking up some points that they wouldn't have otherwise have seen, I don't think. Not just in the GT3s, but in the GTPs as well, the likes of Bradley Holly, Graham Wildmont, who will be absolutely delighted with these points, and Jeff Evans as well, with a few of the drivers, the likes of Alex de Almeida, who's right up there on the championship, seemingly scoring barely anything, if anything, today. But all the way through this race, this GT3 battle has been mighty. It's been close, and they haven't really let each other get too far away from each other.
It's always nice to see teammates battling, isn't it? Cummings and Gardner very close on pace, and it looks like Cummings will be able to have a little more to play with here, as Gardner is going to have to make way for the recovering GTP of Nathan Bartley, who, remember, was running second early on in the race. Now he's all the way down in 9th in GTP and 20th overall, and actually getting a lap back on our GT3 leaders. That's incredible.
Yeah, this is just one of the craziest races I can think of that I've called, particularly that first 10 minutes. Was just chaos, all over the road. Here comes some more lapping. Brett Gardner being lapped around the outside at turn 2. This is where we saw the incident. It's not going to happen again, is it? Nearly did, actually. Once again, that would have been bad. Coming down in towards the Moss hairpin, up to turn 4, I should say. Not turn 2, but this is Jeff Evans trying to pick his way through and trying to get himself possibly onto the podium positions. He might have to depend on a possible mistake from Graham Wildmont or Bradley Holly in this race, but at the same time, Bradley Holly might be in possibly a pit stop range.
Yeah, remember, for the time being, Pelshot is the only one of our GTP top 4 to have come into the pits, and he has been wasting no time trying to make up that gap on Graham Wildman. He's run a bit slower on this lap, but brought the fastest lap down to a 118.1, which is very impressive. There goes Gardner into the pit lane. So we'll be seeing how they check out versus Eric Fenson and Ted Lowendick, but I get the feeling it's... I think Gardner's going to maybe just hold on to the second place, but Fenson currently making his way into the final couple of corners. Careful not to run too wide.
Yeah, let's see if he can maybe jump Gardner here. I don't think he can, because Gardner is already rolling once again. And there you can see out of the pit lane, so comfortably ahead, not even a question. In the end, and Eric Fenson will have to settle to stick in P3 for now. Probably needing quite a big mistake from one of the top 2 to get any higher up, but a P3 would be, I mean, a very good result in conditions such as these. A quarter of an hour, though, left in this one, as we have done 2/3 of this race. Bradley Holly, I've been looking at his time. He is gaining on Graham Wildmont here, and he has been consistently. Graham Wildmont being caught up a little bit by the cars in front of him. And whether this is a battle for P2 where it becomes a battle for the win with Pat Pelshot lurking around as well, this could become really interesting in the final 10 minutes.
Oh, it certainly could. Pelshut was the fastest car on track that last time by 0.3 faster than Graham Wildman. Bradley Holly, meanwhile, he's driven very consistently. He's been setting times in the low 1 minute 20s when he hasn't had traffic. So things going pretty well for Bradley Holly at the moment. But you can see the stress on his features, the focus that he's having to employ here just to keep the car going straight.
A great array of things behind him. There we go. That's the camera we've all been waiting for. Look at that. I don't know what that is necessarily. There's some trees on the left-hand side there through the window, but I don't quite know what's out in front of him. I hope he does, because otherwise that would be quite an experience. It's like driving with your eyes shut, which, you know, you're not necessarily recommended to do. There you can see, actually, you can see the tyre hoardings. There's a car. So I think really it's just the camera and the light that gets through it at the moment. That's why we can't see anything on track. But even still, it looks pretty difficult to see much.
Yeah. Well, Graham Wildman has come in from the lead of GTP, and now we'll see if Pat Pelshut has done enough to make his way past, and he certainly has. He is by easily and back into the race lead. So now Wildman's only hope is for Pelshut to have a mistake or have a run-in with a GT.
Yeah, but Bradley Holly as well. He'll be up there in P3, and Graham's going to have to be having him in the back of his mind, especially as Bradley Holly's going to have a shorter pit stop with the amount of fuel that he will have to put in the car. Noticing that Jack Hedgecox is out of this race, and Jeremy Carters is in the pit lane, which means Darian Roy is about to put himself into the top 6 now, with all sorts of higgledy-piggledy stuff going on the timing tower in the GTPs. There is Darian Roy. When he crosses the line, he will be ahead, I believe, of Jack Hedgecox. And then he'll probably be ahead of Jeremy Carters in the not-too-distant future either. There's a wide GT3. Is that one of the leaders? I think it could be.
It is.
There's Brett Gardner. It is. Gardner having an
What?
issue. That wasn't Gardner going around, though. Gardner's got no front end. Fence has gone through. Someone else has gone around at that corner. It is all kicked off there. There's 3 cars involved, and I think they were all in different parts of the... well, in different races with each other.
I've just seen what happened. So, unfortunately, it looks like Richard Savager caught the grass right in front of Brett Gardner. This is disastrous here for Brett. You see the spin there for Savager. Gardner has nowhere to go and loses his front end. Fenson thinking, oh, I might have a chance here, but he's found himself with some troubles as well. And Richard Savager will not be feeling good about that. He just made that error all on his own down the Mario Andretti straightaway. My goodness, what a change.
And it means that Eric Fenson's now in P2, and Ted Lovendick is up into 3rd, despite being nearly 40 seconds off of Jake Cummings here. This is what happened. Saavedra, oh yeah, just completely losing the car. And then that just started the chain reaction, isn't it? You can see those 3 GT3s, Fenson ploughing into the corner. And then it all kicked off in the mid-corner with someone else going around there. So, crazy stuff, really, down at the S's. But that's the kind of thing you can get with, you'd say, a lack of visibility.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, not being quite aware of where the edge of the racetrack is in Richard Savage's case. That's such a shame because, man, it means that it's given a huge advantage now to Jake Cummings, who still leads our GT3 class with 0 pressure from behind, and he still hasn't come into the pits yet. So, yeah, it's going to be tough from here on out for anyone to get a run up on him. Can't see anything in front of that GTP there. I'm not too sure who we were looking at there, but man, it can't be fun with no aerodynamic device on the back of the car.
Yeah, Carsten Quint, I believe it was, having no rear wing, the number 55 car struggling along and probably having to come into pit road again at the end of this lap, if he's going to even get to the end of the lap, it seems. As that, well, there we go. A magic dust appearing as he's just spun the car around. Hardly surprising when you've got no rear end, and that is a bit of a joyride, really, isn't it, with the big bump?
Yeah, certainly a joyride for the right rear tyre that was detached from the car as a result. Well then, Graham Wildman, he's got about 12 seconds to make up on Pat Pelshart at the moment. Sorry, 8 seconds. My apologies. Don't know what my timing screen was doing. But, yeah, this is going to be the battle for the lead, effectively. Pelshart still holding the fastest lap and still running very quick times indeed. But it remains to be seen whether or not he'll be able to hold on to that in the last 9 minutes of this race.
Yeah, but it also depends about Bradley Holly and how long his pit stop takes here, because I think it's going to be quite close between those two with Holly and Wildman on pit exit. Darian Roy's up to P5 in the GTPs. Jeremy Carter's is out, despite the fact that Darian Roy is 6 laps down. He's still in 5th place. Overall, though, that means that he is going to be all the way down in what is P14, I do believe, if what I'm reading is correct. So just simply incredible, really, that we've got more cars in the top 10 that are GT3s than we do that are GTPs.
Yeah. Oh dear. I've run out of wit at the moment, Dara. I do apologize. It's just the amount of action we've seen, the amount of drama for so many drivers in this field. It's the race that nobody wants to win. I think that's that's how you can define this race. As, oh dear, the Corvette of Doug Evans there, I believe, was stopped on the exit of the third last corner. Evans already having suffered a spin and a crash earlier. He'll get back going ahead of Fenson there, but well, the drama does not stop here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Oh, Graham Wildman even.
No, sorry, I thought I was just going to say that Fenson just sees all of the action happen in front of him. There's someone going around there at turn 3. There's William Fenson off as well. There's 7 minutes left, and maybe concentration is dipping just a touch, but there is still a lot going on. Here we look at Jake Cummings, the race leader, making his way through on a very injured GT3 car. Then comes to the inside is, I believe that could also be Darian Roy lapping him. I might be very wrong on that one, but there is a GTP coming through. Wasn't Darian Roy, very much shown up there, but it was one of the GTPs, that's for sure, making their way through, and Jake Cummings will be lapping another one of his GT3s as well, but he's just got to try and get home to the end, because 6 minutes 30, he's looking at another 4 more laps, 5 at a push to go.
Yeah, hard to tell at this stage. You know, the lap times vary so much in wet conditions that it can sometimes be, you know, a few seconds either way whether or not you get that extra lap. But I think for Jake Cummings here in the lead of GT3, he's got practically nothing on his back at the moment, still running that slightly wider line coming out of the final corner, maybe just entering a little too hot, but he's under no pressure at all. He's got 17 seconds back to Eric Fenson, so he can just afford to cruise here in the final 6 minutes.
Yeah, one driver who can't cruise is Bradley Holly, because he still hasn't come into the pit lane, has he? So he has still got to make that pit stop at some stage. He's coming in towards the final couple of corners now. Does he go this time? No. Staying out. He can't stay out the whole race, can he? He must have to pit.
Yeah, surely. Yeah, because
is he just leaving it till right at the end? Literally,
yeah,
last
I suppose so.
Opportunity?
Just trying to go as long as possible. I think, you know, he doesn't want to risk getting caught up in some GT traffic on the way out of the pit lane. So that's the potential there for Bradley Holly. But yeah, I don't know, man. He's driving well at the moment. He's like I said before, he's kept it as consistent as can be. He hasn't been the fastest of the GTPs out there, but he has had consistency and care on his side.
Yeah, and that gap between himself and Graham Wildman has grown out to what is about 23 seconds now. So he's definitely looking to come out in front. In fact, I think Graham Wildman may have had a slight issue somewhere because he's dropping a long way back. He's actually maybe just getting stuck behind these traffic as he makes his way through the opening sector. We have got 4 minutes left of this race. Pat Pelchat, you'd think, is going to be the one crossing the line first. But we don't necessarily know that. And with everything that's gone on in this race, I am not going to put put my money on anything at this point.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to my chips. I'm walking away from the roulette table. In fact, it's certainly been a game of roulette out here today.
Ooh, someone's wide without a front end of car. And it's just chaos. I think we're being conditioned into seeing bits of car just off the circuit. Oh, that is...
Oh my god.
That is that. Who was that at the back? It was quite a hit. We will find out. We think it's Sean Murphy. But regardless, it was quite a hit into the barrier.
Yeah. Oh dear, it was Sean Murphy in the end, and that's how it happened for him, just losing it on the way into turn 2. And man, the grass does nothing to help you if you go off at turn 2, one of the fastest corners on this track. He'll keep it going, but with how much damage, we're not entirely sure. A long retirement list starting to grow here. We've lost Brett Gardner from the GT3 class. Daniel Trinka and Evan Henneman, it looks like, are going to pass him right before the checkered flag. Bradley Holly avoiding the pit lane again. I'm starting to think he might be able to make it without a stop.
We'll have to see if he can get to the head. I mean, Dustin is in our area chanting no pit. Let's see if he can actually do it. That is not what you'd want to see, though, if you're leading the race. If he is going to pit, he must do it next time around. Because the way he's lapping, which would mean that the next time around is going to be the white flag, he would have to pit. The issue at the moment is that Pat Pelchat is now 5 seconds behind and closing rapidly. He's nearly rear-ended GT3. Yes, there's no other way to describe it really, apart from what on earth is going on. Because Bradley Holly, is he going to pit? Oh, Pelchat's in here. They're nearly 3-1 with the GT3s. There's a GT3 going off. Avoid the GT3! My word, that was quite a code brown there for Pat Pelchat. He nearly got tapped in the rear, just praying that Bowie Suen didn't just go a little bit further into his line. Graham Wilmont's behind this as well. Where's Bradley Holly? Because is he going to come into the pit lane? He's going to be approaching it pretty soon. Does he pit or does he stay out? Let's see. He's into the... Oh, no, that's Bowie Suen going around.
So close to cleaning up that Pelchat.
Yeah, it was not far at all between them. And I have to tell you, Bradley Holly's gone around again. Bradley Holly's taking the checker next time round.
He is indeed. And, well, this is the view from Suen back onto the racetrack. There's Pat Pelchat just flashing by in the windscreen. But... wow, this has emerged as a fantastic drive from Bradley Holly and also from Jeff Evans too. It looks like Evans isn't going to be completing the race with a pit stop as well. This is something that we did not consider. The fact that, you're driving more carefully in the wet, you're using less fuel. And Holly has just been metronomically pumping out times in the low 1 minute 20 second bracket for the majority of this race. He hasn't always been up the top in the GTP class in the dry, but the wet always throws up an interesting result. And Bradley Holly pulling a strategy masterclass here today.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't quite think it was possible or even allowed to not pit during a race, but maybe it's because it's so impossible generally that it wouldn't even need to be a rule. But regardless, Bradley Holly, the man with the T-cam, he's not had the easiest of seasons so far, but all he has to do is make his way through the final corner. I think we're going to have... yeah, that's Jake Cummings. Is he going to make him do an extra lap? No, I don't think he will. So that does mean that at the same time crossing the line, we have Bradley Holly winning in the GTP category, and we have Jake Cummings winning in the GT3 category. Quite frankly, one of the craziest races that PRL has likely ever seen, with 45 minutes of just abject chaos and pandemonium. But Bradley Holly, the no-stop strategy, it's worked for him, and he's won the race ahead of the championship leader.
Yep, magnificent from Bradley Holly, and also from Jake Cummings as well. The picture of consistency and cleanliness, he was basically mistake-free all race, this red Corvette. Really fantastic drive, and good points for the team still. They would have hoped that his teammate Brett Gardner would have made the finish, but at the very least, it is still a Tech Sport Corvette on top here in PRL GTP and GT3.
Yeah, an incredible race. There's no other way to put it, really. It just simply crazy. Cars everywhere. Darian Roy has finished 5th in the GTP, 7 laps down out of the 12 that started this race. Just incredible. Nathan Bartley is out of this race, which means more than half didn't see the flag. There's Bradley Holly coming back to the line, just parking it up, taking his rightful acclaim, but we've got the results. As he does some donuts on the start-finish straight. He doesn't need that rear end anymore, doesn't mind if he hits it. But he is the winner of this one by only 6 seconds in the end to Pat Pelchat. Graham Wildmon and Jeff Evans were the only others on the lead lap. Darian Roy finished 7 laps down. And then the non-finishers, Nathan Bartley, Jeremy Carter, Alex de Almeida, Matthew Denise, Jack Hedgecox, and then just the 2 others, or 3 others even, of Carsten Quint, Nathan Ray and Kevin Santana. The 13 drivers. Pelchat gets the fastest lap, but wasn't able to get the win. In the GT3s, it was Jake Cummings in the Chevy who won that race ahead of Eric Fenson, the leader of the Fenson brothers, in P2, and Ted Lovendick in 3rd. Chris Stewart was 4th, the only other driver on the lead lap, as of course the 2 winners crossed the line pretty much in unison. William Fenson was 5th, a lap down. Bowie Suen, after that late lap spin, nearly taking out Pat Pelchat, finished in 6th, would you believe. Kerry Corcoran, who it felt like was lapped, finished 7th. Daniel Trinker, Evan Henneman, and Brett Gardner, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And I think a few of these guys not seeing the flag. The rest of the guys, though, Doug Evans, Sean Murphy, Mark Kalin, Gabriel Alvarado, Thomas Yankee, Richard Saavedra, and Nathan Jennings, definitely not seeing the checkered flag. And there we can catch our breath. My word, Reese. Quite frankly, one of the many races that have happened in the iRacing sphere, but one of the best that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't lack for action, did it? Just an incredible race, but amazingly, no pit stop, and to the win for Waterback Racing's Bradley Holly. You're with him now.
Yeah, Bradley, welcome in. Frankly, congratulations. How did you get to the end without stopping? How close were you on the fuel?
I had 3/10 of a gallon left of fuel. I did not have much to go.
That is incredible, though. I mean, a ridiculous result for you. I mean, I think it's fair to say you've not had the luck so far this season, but you were able to keep yourself out of trouble this evening. How difficult was it not to, be involved in one of the many incidents that we saw?
Extremely difficult. The toughest part was just how often the conditions were changing on track. You would start to feel to lighten up, and then all of a sudden it'd be another downpour, and just hitting your marks was probably key in staying out of any puddle. Probably the scariest part was being behind any other car in the spray.
I mean, it was lucky for you that you weren't behind any of your fellow cars for the end of that race. So full credit to you on that one. Looking forward, next few weeks, does this win kind of build you a little bit of momentum?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Daytona was a big momentum builder for me, even though I had my hardware issue. And going into this week, I put in a lot of practice and kind of changed or felt out different conditions and kind of had an idea what I was going to do, and my pace ended up working out to where I didn't need to have a pit stop.
Yeah, well, Interlagos next week's going to be almost as different as can be. So we'll wish you the best of luck for that. On a personal note, I have to say, I do absolutely love the T-Cam that you have. So please keep that up, because we love to see that on the broadcast. So thanks for that, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much.
Hardly Holly
Brilliant
there.
stuff.
A fully deserved winner, but I don't think it was a name that we were expecting to see winning this race.
Yeah, certainly. We were expecting Pat Pelshart, who joins us now. Goodness me, Pat, that was a very tough race indeed. Seems like the no-pit strategy on fuel saving was the way to go for some drivers, but you committed to the stop with some incredible pace.
Yeah. I mean, the no pit stop strat was the way to go. Was not like very obvious at the beginning. I made kind of a small mistake, and Graham, I don't know, I don't remember who it was, but he got in front of me, so I caught back to him, but the spray was just so bad, so I could not follow. Really, like I was gonna lose the car at some point. Like it was stupid how much spray there was, and I had to try something. So I tried the undercut because I don't know, my software was saying pit stop was required. So I decided to dive in, and honestly, that's all I could do tonight. I got hit twice by GT3, and yeah, man, managed to finish with damage. So.
Well, in any case, another podium at the very least for you after winning the opening races of the season on the trot. The championship is looking pretty good for you at the moment. Coming into the middle phase of the season, I suppose you're glad to be leaving the wet track behind for the time being.
I am. Honestly, the goal tonight was always the win. I'm very glad. I gotta give a big shout out to Brad for the win tonight. Like he nailed the strat. He was just perfect, no mistakes. Like props to him, like fully deserved. But yeah, tonight was just, I was expecting maybe hit to be my drop week. It didn't end up being so. Good points, and yeah, I'm very happy to get out of here with a P2, to be honest.
As you should be. Well, congratulations, Pat, and hopefully we get a chance to talk to you after Interlagos next week.
All right, thank you, guys.
Pat Pelshart, their second place, and in third, Dara, it was Graham Wildman in the number 53. Another fantastic drive.
Thanks, fellas. It was,
Graham, we spoke to you. I was say, Graham, we spoke to you last week, didn't we? After the incident at the end, which meant that it kind of cost you the good position. But this week, P3 podium position. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was definitely a white knuckle experience out there all day. Didn't quite have the pace of the Acuras. They seemed to just walk away from me, but glad to keep it clean and just run my own race out there.
Talk us through the opening stages, because of course there was that moment before we even got going where you went around at the Moss hairpin. Were you expecting to be leading the race 10 minutes later?
No, I wasn't. Really, I think I hit the paint on the inside line there and the car snapped faster than I could react. But my goal was just to build a gap in front and behind me and just hang on to what I had and, just kind of capitalize on mistakes in front. That's exactly what happened. So I'm glad I could execute on that plan a lot better than last week.
I mean, looking forward now with this P3, this upticks your points, of course, in the championship. Interlagos next time out, it couldn't really be more different to this circuit. Is it one you're looking forward to?
Yep, last time I raced there in the PRL, I ran out of gas coming to what would have been a victory there. So hopefully I can redeem myself this time around and make a good result of it.
Yeah, well, all the best for next week. Hopefully we'll speak to you again after Interlagos, but congratulations on the podium, and we'll see if you can emulate that in 7 days' time.
Thanks, fellas. See you next week.
Graham Wilman there, our P3 man in the GTPs, and one of the only 4 drivers within 6 laps of the winner, and he was only half minute off. But Reese, where we had that big disparity in the gaps in the GTPs, we didn't quite have it in the GT3s.
We did not. Jake Cummings is with us now. 5th overall, Jake. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, me and Brett were talking about that with I saw on the relative that after the first 3 laps, only 6 of the 13 GTPs weren't in the pits. So I was like, man, we might get a pretty good overall result out of this too. Bit of bragging rights, but Yeah, just a really crazy race. My only thing going into this, and I had very little practice, maybe 6 or 7 laps once I got in the session. I was just like, do not wreck. Pace matters the least of anything in this race. Just keep it on the road, keep mistakes to a minimum, and when you do make mistakes, recover quickly and make sure they're small. And I managed to do that where most everyone else wasn't able to. So it worked out in the end for me. I was just, yeah, I was so worried I was gonna. Once my teammate Brett had his issue, I was worried I was gonna be next. So I brought it way down, just kind of took a chill pill, and it brought it home.
Yeah, that's exactly what you did there. And, you know, talking about the track state, I mean, I'm seeing it on the production feed now. The fact that we had such deep puddles on the exits of corners here, you know, an old school circuit like Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, you're basically negotiating in between rivers around a place like this.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I just bought a new gaming PC the other day, and I've still been dialing in everything, kind of seeing, like testing the limits of it. And at first I had it set to, you know, there's a setting in the graphics where you can set how sharp or like detailed you want the reflections. And I learned in the practice session that it's very important to have that on high, at least when the rain is active, because it helps you see the puddles a lot easier. Because in my practice laps beforehand, I was just going right through them and losing the car, having no idea what the heck I did wrong. So that helped quite a bit. And yeah, it was, you know, couldn't see a thing when anyone was in front of you. And then my teammate, first time he got past me, he blew past me, and then he kept making little mistakes, got right back in my way, couldn't see again for a few more laps. So it was just, you know, fighting visibility and fighting just getting around those puddles. And sometimes you had to drive through them, sometimes you had to negotiate around them, sometimes you kind of had to go like half and half just to make sure you can keep on the road and keep your car in one piece. And managed to do that. It wasn't a ton of fun, went by faster than I thought, but definitely glad for it to be over.
Yeah, I'll bet you are. You'll be welcoming the clear conditions in Brazil next week. Thanks for joining us, Jake. Congratulations.
Thank you guys once again. Have a good night.
Brilliant stuff from Jake Cummings, and also brilliant stuff from the 777 of Eric Fenson, who's with us now, Dara.
Yeah, Eric, welcome in. Congratulations on the P2. Talk us through how that race was for you. I mean, you were in the thick of it almost all the way through. You were on the replays more than I can count. I mean, how difficult was it out there just to keep it on the circuit?
Oh, it was almost impossible, really. The puddles were just everywhere, and just random. Like you'd brake and you just start turning left, which is pretty terrifying. But yeah, just kind of keeping steady, not being too stupid about it, and just, like keeping clear of the cars, I guess.
Yeah, keeping clear of some of the cars is absolutely fair when there was chaos going around you. I think there was a moment down in the final couple of corners where yeah, there were a couple of cars spinning, there was a car off the road, and it was just absolute chaos. But for you personally, a P2, this must give you a real boost in confidence going forward in the championship.
Yeah, it's great for the championship. I know I'm strong in rain compared to dry, so just tried to pull it all out. I think I had pace for P1, but I kept making mistakes. So, yeah.
But before we let you go, Eric, we have to ask you about next week, Interlagos. Something you're looking forward to as a circuit, or are you looking maybe forward to the tracks later on in the season?
I don't think I've driven a GT3 around Interlagos, so we'll see, I guess. I think I like it in F3, so should be good.
Yeah, it should be a fantastic race. But Eric, congratulations, well done on the P2, and hopefully we'll see you on the podium again in 7 days' time.
Hopefully, thank you.
Eric Fenson there, of course, not just getting second, but beating his brothers as well, Reese.
Yeah, indeed. The fastest of the Fensons. Fastest of the Audis was Ted Lowendick here in the Selpic Precision Racing 72. Another podium on the board for you, Ted, but it certainly didn't come easy.
No, that was miserable. I hope we don't have to do that again. That was awful.
Well, we do have a potential for wet weather right at the end of the season at Le Mans, but I think about half the chance of rain that that most sport has. So maybe you'll get away with it.
Let's hope. Yeah, that was I did GT4 last season, so they didn't have wet weather abilities yet. So I avoided the wet weather for quite a bit. This was a test that the computer can hold up to it. I'm just happy I didn't make any too many mistakes. It was really funny. I forget who it was that was in front of me. I was holding them up. Who was it? I don't know who it was, but the guy in I think a Ferrari. I was holding him up. It was obvious. He finally got around me, and then he'd make a mistake, and I'd catch back up. And then he'd pull away, and he'd make a mistake, and I'd catch back up. So it's like fishing. He had the string, and I would reel him back, and then he'd go away. It was an interesting time.
Well, regardless, it's another good haul of championship points. Aside from the fact that it's going to be dry, are you looking forward to Interlagos?
I don't mind the track. I actually like it. It usually favors the turbo cars, and we don't really use a BOP in this league. So the BMW, the Ferrari are probably going to be really good. But we'll see. Maybe talent can make up for lack of car, but I don't have that much talent, so.
Oh, I think you're selling yourself short there, Ted. Hopefully you get a good result again at Interlagos and we can have you in the box again.
Well, thank you guys. Shout out to PRL, RaceSpot, everybody. Soulpeck. Yeah, it's good to get back on the podium. If my dad and mom are watching, hello to you as well.
Yes, hello indeed to Mother and Father Lowendick. That's Ted there, getting third place in GT3 here, Dara, and that's going to conclude our runnings here. And I think a lot of drivers will be very happy to leave a wet Canadian Tire Motorsport Park behind for a suitably dry Interlagos.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Ted's reaction there of just stating how horrible it was for everybody out there. Not really just sugarcoating it at all. But it should be nice, as you said, here at Interlagos for a race which probably will provide us with some great racing action. We saw it just a couple of days ago, didn't we, in the World Endurance Championship around here, how well we saw some racing, particularly in the hypercar category, which is, you know, all but the GTP category. Don't come after me for that statement, but hopefully we're going to have a great time at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, but that's for 7 days time, as well as the next round in the LMP3-GT4 Challenge, where we're going to go to Mugello. So two very different circuits in very different locations, but hopefully going to provide us with some great racing action. But our championship battles, they really have developed this evening. Big swings in all four of the Drivers' Championships that we saw here, and hopefully more will come in 7 days' time. But you'll have to join us for that when we do return on Monday night. Of course, in the meantime, don't miss out on the rest of the PRL action over the rest of the course of the week. But from myself, Jared Thacker, Reese Gardner up in the commentary box alongside me, and from Dustin Ollis pushing all the buttons, making the broadcast look absolutely magnificent. We thank you all very much for watching, for commenting in the chat, and for keeping us entertained all the way through this evening, and we really do hope that you join us in 7 days' time when we do go to Mugello, when we do go to Interlagos for round 5 of PRL on a Monday night.